All good, all good. Well, Vinyls, I wanted to introduce you to my co-host Sam. We started Boards and Buckets many years ago. Amazingly, we still keep this stream up. Sam had to go and take a bit of time away. Amazingly, getting married for a whole year, and then once he had the kid, now he's back on stream. I don't know how to explain that part, but still, no. We went to law school together. He's an amazing, just like he knows everything about Chicago basketball and about NBA hoops. And so, in a lot of ways, today I think will be a very fun conversation into someone who's very seasoned in the top shot like I am, and somebody like Sam who is exposed to it, but isn't collecting right now on Top Shot. And when I told him about the game today, he was like, "That's actually really cool." So tell me more about it. And I think today is more of like an informed sort of how would we get somebody to reacclimate back into Top Shot? And I think in a lot of ways, for me at the very least, while I go and start off the questions, how do you feel about like new users versus reacquired former users, and sort of how does that sort of affect the metrics behind what makes Fastbreak successful?
Yeah, so good to meet you, Sam.
Pleasure meeting you as well.
It's pretty wild to be on a stream with three people that went to law school that are in the Top Shot streams.
It's true.
I was able to escape law, but I had some fun years before I jumped ship. But it's a good question where with new users and reactivated users, and so like there's different opportunities with those groups of people, right? So we had so many people join during the massive hype period that we all remember back in early 2021, throughout 2021, and even early 2022. And we had so many users, and I'm talking about KYC users, like legit people. Sure, some people had their family members join, but like you had to have a KYC pass, and we're talking over 800,000 unique users. And so there are all these people out there that know Top Shot. And, the question is, have we gotten all the people that kind of fall in the circle of collecting digital collectibles for the NBA and big NBA fans? And I think the answer there is, I think we got a lot of them, but I think there's still a ton of opportunity, because when you think about it, there are millions upon millions of NBA fans around the world. So there's opportunity there. Now, do all of them collect, cardboard? Do all of them collect memorabilia? No, of course not. But, is there an opportunity to get them involved with a game like Fastbreak, where they're getting to watch the games, play fantasy sports? I think that intersection of fantasy sports and collectibles is something we really haven't seen before. It's a pretty new concept over the last couple of years, with us and So Rare, and there are a lot of other third parties that are sort of jumping in the party, but it's a relatively new thing. Like, there was never such a thing with fantasy leagues where you play with your cardboard and you had to have the players in cardboard. Like, it's just not a thing. So there's definitely opportunity there to bring in new users. Now, reactivated, we have all these people who have moments and even packs sitting in their accounts, and they're dormant. And so we've only sent out emails to about 20,000 users. And of that 20,000 users, about 13 to 14,000 of those users are inactive or were inactive. And we were able to reactivate several thousand of them through coming to play Fastbreak. The question is, once we expand that net to bring an invite to all the people. So we have, I've talked about it a little bit in the Fastbreak chat, but we have cohorts that we look at. And
of course.
So there's inactive, there's new user, then there's small, medium, large, extra large. And we just kind of work through, it's not necessarily spend. It's more about what they do on site. Do they do challenges? Do they do leaderboards? Do they, set challenges different from flash challenges? Do they do, do they play Fastbreak? Do they come to all the pack drops? Do they buy on the P2P market or the PAX marketplace? What is their usage level? And so we have a lot of users in that medium, large, and extra large cohort that we can certainly bring back to the product. And I think we needed to really get Fastbreak in a place where
I want to turn off.
What was that?
Sorry. I'm sorry. I had to turn off my alarm.
Oh, yeah. No, what I was saying was we have all these people who know the product and have seen the product, and their first touch point back, we really have to make it it be a lasting memory, because if we don't, they'll just go right back to churning. So we've had to make sure that we do this in a methodical way, inviting little by little, instead of just saying, oh, all right, it's open, everybody come in. Because if we mess up that first, that first touch point with us again, the fact that they're going to, whether or not they're going to come back again, it's going to be a lot tougher.
And I agree also too. You have to mess with like also the NBA, who you don't also want to use your IP and also sort of execute something in a way that they will not be happy with. And so what I want to do with this is because like you hit it like on many amazing points right there, and I appreciate you being very candid, being on stream and like firing off like these very big tenets that I hopefully people out over here on the stream will be able to hear and listen to. Like this is what the developer is trying to go and accomplish within the community. And so in a lot of ways, we can be all constructive. We can all be sort of point at every single problem. But I think like all forward together, in my opinion, it's always following the basketball. And so following the basketball itself, Sam, I want to go and bring this back to you just real quickly. And then I want to sort of like steer the question from you to, Vinyls, from you to him directly. But I want to know from you specifically. You've been now co-hosting with me for 3 years here on streams every single night. And before even Playback brought this in front of us, this amazing technology, we always had the idea of sort of, watching these games, compartmentalizing like these like little moments in time to sort of being like content for us. And so I want you to go and sort of explain maybe A, why you haven't collected Top Shot until now, B, how like this game could like entice you to go and collect in that way. And then also C, like just sort of like any sort of, I guess, prongs that you think that this game could sort of like, if they haven't convinced you by now, can sort of reel you in. And so like those are sort of like 3 prongs that I want to sort of bring you in, because to me, you are the ideal user. You are actually feeding into NBA, like, Top Shot content without collecting the product. So, can this sort of move you in that way? And if not, like, sort of tell us why.
So the short answer is yes, right? And I'll kind of get into why. So first of all, Vinyls, it's a pleasure having you with us. Really appreciate you taking time to be here to kind of really explain this product and talk about how users can really connect with it. I think that sometimes, and I think this is less true of Top Shot, but a lot of times when people launch a product, there is a concern about joining out and being in the public eye and having these conversations. I think Top Shot historically has never really shied away from it, especially in moments where they've been admittedly moments where they've struggled and where they've done well. And so I think that's a testament to the company, that's a testament to the staff, that's a testament to you all, like, whenever you guys come out here. So we as content creators, as fans, always appreciate it, whether the message is positive or constructive. It's always great to have you guys here. With that said, in terms of like my specific interactions with Top Shot, so I think I was part of that like hype period where it was like the season. I think I came in like tail end of season 2, beginning of season 3 is when you guys were launching packs, and I was doing every pack drop, I think, that was like for a comment. I felt like anything that was rare or higher, I never had the collector score for or was priced out of personally. And so, and to kind of give you an example of like where my background is, like from a, like, not necessarily from a basketball perspective, but from a, like how I thought of Top Shot and card collecting. I've really collected sports cards, but I collected, I was big in the trading card game community, like at least locally, right? Like I used to, collect Pokemon cards as a kid. I was like really involved in like collecting.
Yeah, look at that! Look at that wall.
That wall's gorgeous. I used to play Yu-Gi-Oh pretty competitively, and then still like jump into Hearthstone pretty regularly and have like for a long time. So like I'm not, and I did a little bit of like Legends of Runeterra, so I'm not like out of the realm of like collecting cards and then having some sort of utility or gamesmanship with them, which is part of the reason why this intrigues me so much with what Top Shot is doing. And I want to get into the weeds of that kind of as we progress through the conversation. But not only did I feel like, at least as a personal user during that time where I was kind of priced out of specific things, which is like fine. It was less of an issue like before the utility was introduced. But then it was like, I felt like as Top Shot was progressing in terms of the way collector score was being handled, and then the way certain packs were and moments were being dropped, I felt further and further phased out. And so I was actually, I feel like, pretty much removed from it before they did the readjustment on collector scores. So that, like, to get kind of give you a timeline of what I'm talking about. So when they readjusted collector scores, I think I still tried going back in and maybe looking at a couple drops here and there. And then the other part that I kind of struggled with was like, you know, when you to kind of like, I don't know how familiar with I know you were with Pokemon and stuff, and I don't remember what the ratios were, but like with Yu-Gi-Oh and things like that, it was like you were always guaranteed out of the 11 cards you got in a pack, you'd get at least a rare. Out of a booster box, which is like, you know, like those like I can't remember how many packs, like 24 packs in them now, like out of a whole box, you were guaranteed to get, you know, one secret rare, like 2 ultimate rares, X amount of ultra rare, whatever it was, right? So I think at the very least there was at some point there was a guarantee for, you know, that you would get some level of value. And I just felt like at that point is that even if I was able to collect enough of the small packs, that it never quite felt like I felt like every time I was picking up a pack or every time I was entering a drop, it never felt like I was guaranteed a reward for investing into this over the long term. So like, I don't remember how much I spent, but I would say like under $500, but like probably over 200. And in that range, didn't feel like, man, like I'm getting good value out of this. And like from that point, I kind of stopped. So even after the adjustment of the collector score, I personally didn't feel like, oh, this was a good thing that I wanted to like kind of put my money into, which is kind of what let me phase away. Now, after having conversations with Renato today about this game, and I understand that you guys have done things with challenges and stuff in the past too, which I found kind of interesting. I would say like as a base level of like whether based on what I understand of the game today, it wouldn't get me jumped into Top Shot right away, which I understand because it seems like you guys are thinking a lot about that with respect to when you get these emails out, you want to have a product in place that will really get people back. And I appreciate the fact that there's that much thought that's going into it. And I kind of want to have conversations of what you guys are thinking about it and how you plan on adding. But I would say today it wouldn't get me in, but I'm excited about the prospect and probably even the likelihood that eventually it might, based on what it looks like when it's closer to that end product. So that's kind of where I'm coming from, is somebody who's going to be somewhat skeptical today, but hopeful in terms of what the product looks like. Because I'm excited. I do like Top Shot as a company, and the product that I have been introduced to. I just feel like I got phased out of it kind of early.
Yeah. So you touched on a lot of points there. You know, it's funny. There are a few things that you said. So before I joined Top Shot, I did a show very similar to your show called Warren Buckets. And it was awesome. Me and my good buddy Zach, who worked with me for a couple of years at Top Shot, and then moved on to another role. But we were always very harsh about pack constructions, and we had both done a lot of breaks and we're into cardboard, and you touched on, hey, why can't we have a pack that every pack has a hit in it and it's accessible to everybody? You can go out and buy a Pokemon pack for $5 and a rare at the very least. You're going to hit a rare in that. And so I think the big difference is that we can't have we can't just mint a million moments. And so in Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh, in cardboard, the base cards, there's millions of them. Yeah. The rares, there's hundreds of thousands of them. If we were to mint at that level, we would be out of business. And so it's a fine line to put out packs where every single pack has something exciting to hit, but also trying to make sure that we keep scarcity in the forefront. Because what got us into a bad place where users like you who are into it were like, I don't really get this anymore, is what you were able to get were these moments out of 60,000, and comparing that to moments in Series 1 that were out of 1,000 or 1,500 or 2,500. It's like, there's just no way this is unsustainable. And so, like, we went through a period where a lot of users like yourself a lot of collectors like yourself were just like, not for me. Like, I can only get these base set packs. There's unlimited of them. Like, I can't hit anything else in these packs. Like, I'm out.
Can I ask you a question though on how much, I guess, working on challenges versus this has sort of affected like sort of that user experience? Because in a lot of ways, I think this is where Fastbreak in a lot of ways changes the user behavior, because I think one fundamental thing that we sort of miss in the Top Shot community in general is that we have actual reality economic sort of strangles on how people can like sort of buy this product in the same way that they could in years past. So the market in some ways that is reflected as a different kind of economy, a different kind of US economy now, just it's different now, right? In a lot of different ways. And so I think we sort of have to think now about like, current user behavior. And so getting on sort of like that, so like, sort of train, I think that as far as challenges and Fastbreak is concerned, it sort of allows the average user to participate in basketball knowledge competitions in a way that won't go and break the bank, so that they can't pay for, accelerated prices in meat and, milk at home and all that other stuff. Like, and I get like the other part of the conversation, which I would hope that you would go and, hint on, because I don't think necessarily that you can just win this game on $1 moments. I think in this past slate, especially, we have seen where that is not exactly the case at all, where we had like a very small amount of participants that sort of like won this whole thing. So I sort of want to hear like, your thought process behind the differences between challenges and between Fastbreak, but also like the real life economic, implications that I guess we're in a different market now than before, right?
100%. And so, where to begin here? When I joined in, January, beginning of January 2021, to go and get a common moment could, be $30, $40, $50. Within 2 weeks of that, it was hundreds of dollars, if not thousands of dollars for commons. And so, and then don't even get me started on rares and legendary. It was like a pipe dream to like, get up to that level. And, a lot of people were getting onboarded into NFTs, and, you had, the Bored Apes and the Pudgy Penguins. I cannot believe what's going on with Pudgy Penguins. I don't even want to talk about how I fumbled that bag. But anyway, there's
that thing went up and then right down, but like
crazy.
Sorry, man.
Crazy. But anyway, so like, it was one of those things where like we were in COVID, people were spending their disposable income on stuff online. It was like the perfect storm to like build this bubble up. And at the same time, you're watching cardboard and you're looking at all these values, and you're just like, what is going on here? What about this is making it 10, 100x more than a cardboard card with less cards.
Time is a funny thing.
Existence. So it was one of those things where it was just pure euphoria and everybody was just having a blast. And then like we've come back down to reality. And I think the market now is so much healthier than it was back then. And when I say healthy, I don't mean like, back then, we're doing multi-million dollars in P2P transactions every single day. I mean healthy in the sense that somebody can come in and the prices make sense. They immediately make sense. You look at the star players, they're more expensive than bench guys. You look at rares of star players, they're more expensive than their commons by a decent margin. So like it's a much healthier, much more balanced marketplace than I think it's ever been. And we're going to keep working on it and getting into better spaces. But like the marketplace and the P2P, the P2P interactions and challenges, this is where things started getting completely out of hand, because Flash challenges started at the end of 2021. Yeah, at the end of 2021. And by May or June of 2022, like when we finished that season, people are like, oh, we need more of these, and like this, like, oh my god, like we got to keep playing these. And we went back and we went through the data, and my god, did we go through the data. I felt like every single week internally we had a data meeting back then every Friday, and I felt like I was on the hot seat every Friday because they were just dissecting flash challenges every which direction. Okay, it does this, but it does this. Like, there was a point where flash challenges were directly responsible for 35 to 40% of all P2P,
Yeah, that we can all see. Yes,
sales volume on a daily basis. And so it started really hurting once the 35Ks and the 40Ks and the 60Ks were more and more abundant, and it was really easy to get those players. Because before then, the values were still pretty high for a lot of these players. And we had the people going after Will Barton Top Shot debuts for $120.
Right.
And we had Lou Dort commons, and we had Aaron Wiggins just going crazy.
Aaron Wiggins is one on my list forever that I will go and like slam you guys on via Maladon. Basically anyone on the Thunder team playing in the second half of that year. So but let me ask you an actual question though. Okay. So we always have like this like tug and pull between gamification and collectability on Top Shot. Absolutely. I think it's worth at least like talking about right now. And so like at least for Sam up here, who is like I guess at one point been sort of on the end of like collectability, where he has been somewhat suspect to like, do I collect this thing to like have some arbitrary value of a moment in my collection that I spend money on, but like may end up being much less than like what I paid for, versus sort of like this whole prong where like we may have people going and buying. And for instance, where I want to hit you on first is your thought process on tiers on Top Shot. So tiers themselves and building the game on tiers. Because to me, I think that is the most sort of, that is a very dapper, sort of like, we're going to go and like go, I guess, head on like tiers themselves, which in a lot of ways, if we are going to be sort of honest about how tiers work, it doesn't always necessarily follow the supply. So there could be rare moments that could have much more burn charge on them, and vice versa with S1. Actually, S1 moments are actually where you would find less supply than you would find S2 and S3 moments, but they are commons by label, but not necessarily, by definition, they're probably more rare than the rare that they could be competing against likewise. So I sort of want to just like, figure out, I guess, like that prong behind tiers, why you decided to go and build it with Fastbreak in mind. And I guess like, how could that guide the new user like going forward?
Yeah. Great question. So to start off with the answer to this question, I think there are two very different mindsets when it comes to Top Shot collecting. I think there are the collectors that are more used to IRL collecting, where utility doesn't matter. They have this awesome thing. It has value. It's going to either hold value or go up or go down. But that's the fun. That's the game, is, buying the right players. Getting, everybody goes and collects rookies and cardboard.
100%. I agree with that.
Because if you get the right guys, you're going to do well. So, for me, when I collected cardboard a ton, and I still do, just not at the level I used to, because I spent like a lot of my cardboard money on Top Shot and all day. But I think that I would buy boxes and boxes and boxes, and when I hit really great cards of players I didn't collect, I would always sell them and buy the stuff I wanted. And that was the game. That was the collecting game. And I have all these toys behind me. I just got another 2 of them in today. And some of them are $5 and some of them are $250. And so like, that's part of the collecting game. So I completely understand this mindset around Top Shot of the collectibles should hold value on their own. We shouldn't need to offer utility. We shouldn't need to have games. We shouldn't need to do anything, because they are collectible on their own, and that should be good enough. Now let's go to the other side here. The other side is, hey, I'm collecting this thing, and this thing is actually sort of working for me. What is this foreign concept? holy shit, this is amazing. Why isn't my cardboard doing it for me? Like this company that makes this is Pro Wrestling Tees, is like the main company that makes them. They have no idea how many I have. I got so many of these off the secondary market. They have no clue what my collection looks like. They're never going to reward me and send me a free one because I have a huge collection of them. Pokemon's never going to send me free stuff because I have, all these art sets complete. Fish is not going to send me to a concert for free because I have 20 to 25 of their concert posters. But hey, TopShot is sending people to games and giving free packs and giving jerseys out because I'm collecting the stuff I already would have collected, and now I get to play a game. Like, to me, it's just like I understand the other side, but it is like almost
synergy. It's synergy.
That be upset that their collection was doing more for them than just sitting there and playing the buy and sell game. And so it's a completely different way of collecting, because stuff that in the past, in the way I collected cardboard, I absolutely would have quick sold. But on TopShot, there was other reasons to hold moments or hold sets and not break them up for other things. Like, in the past, I'm a huge Sixers fan, so I probably would have consolidated, any legendary or rare I got in the past into Sixers stuff, because, in my cardboard, I consolidate all my stuff into the players I love, and it's mostly Philadelphia players. But here I was like, okay, I'm already getting the players that I love, and I'm still going to collect them. But I actually have reasons to have all the best players, because all these cool things can happen by, having this wide variety of players in a wider collection. So it's a completely different mindset than just the traditional collecting. And to me, it's extremely exciting. The fact that TopShot knows who the biggest collectors of a player is, who the biggest collector of a team is. Think about Magic Johnson and Cade and Clay and all these meet and greets, because we knew definitively who had the biggest collections of these players. That to me is just an absolute evolution of collecting, and I will never stop loving my IRL collecting, clearly, but none of these things are ever going to do anything for me, whereas NFTs actually can give back over time. And that to me is just like such a huge evolution in the collection game. And, we're just scratching the surface of what's possible, and other collections are going to jump on board. Really big companies are going to jump on board. We have Matchbox that's now on Flow, and they have all these cars and they have I met with them and, talking about challenges on TopShot. And I said, hey, have your collectors get 10 of these, Hot Wheels cars, and they get this new limited edition Hot Wheels car that's minted to demand for whoever collects those Hot Wheel cars. And the guy's like,
hold up, can I do a quick little stop? Because what you're dropping right now, people need to go and realize what you're actually talking about. So in the previous marketplace, as we've been experienced in the past couple of years, we're seeing crypto sort of creep its way up, right? In some way, shape, or form. You guys, through your own building, have been able to sort of curate some more demand behind building on top of Flow in a way that people in the past might be because you have heard about it, right? NFL all day. Hey, my collection is worth nothing nowadays, and the La Liga as well, UFC, some of these other projects. But if you can build on top of gamification on Web3, this is sort of the saving prospect that I think that is basically what you're advocating for. And so I want people to go and listen to that, because at the end of the day, nobody in the Web2 ecosystem can go and build this. And Dapper Labs has been in a position for a very long amount of time to basically tell your consumer, how do I buy something and keep the residuals of it happening? And so if you can basically take the concept, it's scalable. And so I think Fastbreak, in a lot of ways, of what Vinyls is talking about, is sort of bringing that concept back to Dapper Labs, back to NBA IP. And so bringing on other brands and other people, this is much more scalable than just beyond TopShot itself, is what Vinyls is saying. Am I incorrect there?
Yeah, absolutely. And let me touch on that real quick, and then I'm going to actually answer your question about the tiers, which is how we got on.
Okay, and then we can circle back to Sam, because I want to hear, Sam, from your opinion on this whole thing, whether it moves a needle or not.
Yeah, so we are actively looking at partnerships, and so this isn't going to happen because we're toward the end of the season. But when I was conjecturing all of this, during last summer, about Fastbreak, there were ideas, which I hope we're able to do next season, where there would be season-long leaderboards. There would be season-long streak counters, who had the longest consecutive streak at any point during the season. That was going to be a big part of it. And like, I was talking to the team, I was like, let's talk to Kia. Let's get somebody a car. Fuck it. Like, let's get them a car if they have the most wins in Fastbreak over the entire season. They're an NBA partner. Like, let's have some fun with it. And so, like, it wasn't a no, but it wasn't anywhere near ready to launch, at the very start of the season, especially at the level of getting those partners involved. And so all season has really been focused on doing it methodically, building with the community, making sure we're getting things right along the way. So when it comes time to have these conversations and bring these, companies in, we can show a really high retention, high engagement product that, we have, hopefully 20,000 people playing every night. Like, that's going to help us get some of these sponsorships with NBA partners. So, that is definitely something on the radar. And, I think something that you'll, potentially even see before the end of the season in small doses, but just to give you an idea of, what we're trying to sort of do from that partnership standpoint. As for tiers, there were a lot of iterations. We played this game. I remember we literally played the game. For anybody out there that's familiar with Retool, we literally just built it on a database, and we were just like putting code in, and we were just like watching the numbers move, like basically on like a DOS screen for all intents and purposes. It was just it was just code. That was like the first
pump out output.
Yeah, that was like the first run of Fastbreak, and it was just like three of us on, putting in our lineups, and it just kept evolving. And so we had talked about, okay, is it going to be by tiers? Is it going to be by mint count? Is it going to be, by badges? Is it like, what makes the most sense here? And as we continued going through it, I think one of the big tenets of building the game was we wanted people to sort of consolidate their commons into rares and consolidate their rares into legendaries. And there's not like a nefarious purpose for that. It's not like, oh, we want people spending more money. It's not like that at all. It's
no, but you got the one moment that you want out of that player instead of like 5 of a random moment.
Exactly. So like, and this is what I used to do. I spent way too much time on Top Shot before I joined, but like, I would get as many packs as I could. And I would, always try to get lower price moments on the marketplace. And then I would sell and consolidate that into what I needed to get the moment I was looking at. And man, if I had offers back in 2021, I probably would have gotten myself in a lot of trouble, because I would have been going after all sorts of stuff. Because for me, it was always about consolidating to go after those grails. And, all the grails I wanted back then, I've been able to get now, and I'm very thankful for that. There's still a few out there that are still out of reach, but I got my Dirk Top Shot debut, I got my Iverson Top Shot debut, I got my Steph Curry MSFE. Like, I went back and got the stuff I really, really wanted, and so that's how we like finally wound up on tiers. Was, hey, commons are common. It's sort of a taupe that we've been saying a lot. Commons were never meant in this product to be like this unbelievable money-making thing to own. And so, rares get you 2 plays, twice as good as a common, and then legendaries get you 4 plays, twice as good as a rare in this game. And so when we were originally talking about it, we were talking about runs being 3 weeks or potentially even longer. And
which I would say, even as a hardcore fan, we are good right now where we are. Like
100%.
Like, and you just right now got the snowflakes on you. Somebody was like, toss them on him. It's hard enough as it is. So, we're trying to grind over here as basketball fans. I get it.
It was too long, because like we were trying to find that sweet spot of, okay, this isn't daily fantasy, but it's also not season long. What's the sweet spot in there? And so when I was planning out a full season, at the start, there were
Right,
these,
right.
there were all these 3-week periods that got us through the season, and that I'll have to find my original documents that
I imagine that
like
this was like
I'm
much
talking like
shorter, and you have a lot more data now to go and build a much better
yeah. I
game.
mean, we're talking 15, 20 pages of hypothesis of like what certain things would do. Like I spent a ton of time just working through like, okay, what makes sense here. So, I mean, at the end of the day, we really wanted to see people starting to consolidate those commons into rares and consolidate those rares into legendary, because to me, like that is a really interesting way to collect anything. You start off at the bottom, you have to work your way to the top. Not everybody has thousands and thousands of dollars of disposable income, so you have to do things in a methodical way. And if you try to skip ahead, then you go 2 steps backward. And you know
So
all these
Vinyls,
collections.
you're right where we are. I mean, I will say, because
Yeah.
I'm a Bulls captain. That's why we're watching this game. Where I know the Bulls are
Good-
probably
good-
going to
good-
lose, but we're putting it on
comeback.
anyway.
Good comeback though. They were down by like 16 or something.
There is a game happening right now, which we
Yeah.
will get back to at some point. But like, the main thing that I think, as far as like, all of it, what the schematics concerned, with, sort of like fast break, is like, basically right now we're trying to just go and figure out like where this game is going in the future. And with Sam, if you have anything else to go and sort of add on, I have some questions from the community that I think will sort of lead on some of the things that you've talked about, like even like during your whole you gave some really good answers, and I think they have some questions that can sort of be backed up by them from the community. But Sam, if you have anything right now, I think because like one thing that I want to sort of preface is that Sam, he comes from like a big gaming background, in the sense that like he's done like a lot of the what do you call it, Sam? Like the big groups where like you watch gaming.
Oh, like I mean, like I used to like go to like a bunch of like esports events, like
esports.
That.
Yeah. There it is. So like, in terms of esports and this whole thing, I wanted to go and sort of piggyback it on Sam, because that's where his mind went and where my mind went with sort of, okay, if we want to sort of find a way to find a malleability between collectability and gamification, how can we achieve that? And I think esports and sort of having the winner's reel of the night, something being mintable, something that, is shareable. I think that's sort of where my brain goes, but I know Sam has a lot of other questions too, just as a outside person from Top Shot.
I would buy League of Legends moments. Please bring them on.
1,000%. But
yeah.
I wanted to kind of harken back to a couple things you said early on, and kind of in what you kind of just answered with respect to wanting collectors to kind of move up from commons to rares to legendaries. So I know earlier on you talked about how like it's hard for new users, or at least users who are kind of in this space early on, to really see value through commons, and it's hard for you, not you individually, but Top Shot as a collective, in order to create that value, because you're not able to mint at a particularly high at the type of level that we're talking about with respect to like Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh or some of these other companies. But I think, so, with the utility aspect of trading card games for the community, I know you mentioned that, like, from the sports collection perspective, there hasn't been any way to really have any utility with your cards. And like, this is a new way to collect for sports fans. It's not really a new way to collect, I think, generally speaking, right? Because you have these TCGs that have been around for a long time. So I have a couple questions, which is, the first is, have you been looking at how like TCGs have functioned in the past, or especially the ones that are electronic, like Hearthstone, Legends of Runeterra, Magic the Gathering, in its online form, in terms of how you're looking at utility with respect to Top Shot? And if you are, then are any of the functionality that common cards bring in those games something that you're looking at? So for example, like, even though a lot of these like games, a lot of commons are what we like refer to as like staples. Like they're universally used in like every version of a deck, or they're so commonly used that even if a particular card is worth, a nickel or a dime, everybody has it, because it provides such good utility that it can change a game around for you, and it can still allow people to still be competitive. Maybe not the most competitive or the most consistent types of decks in those respective fields, but still offer a chance to be successful and to have value in those cards, even though they're not the rares and the legendaries or their equivalents in those particular games.
Yeah, so great question. I think Hearthstone, Legends of Runeterra fall into a different category than cardboard Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, Magic the Gathering.
Interesting.
And here's why. Hearthstone, Runeterra, you get what you get. You can't sell them. They're yours. They're soulbound. They're it's about getting all the cards so you can try all the different combinations and like have fun with it. And I mean I've been playing Hearthstone since Year of the Mammoth or whatever that really old set is, Gadget Sand, whatever, like way back. So like I've loved that game for a long time. And Runeterra I've played because I'm a huge League of Legends fan, but I haven't really gotten like too deep into it. Now Magic and Pokemon, the Badlands, who used to work at Topshot and helped out on challenges.
The Badlands, I remember him.
Yeah, he's a pro Pokemon player. So we used to
okay.
So he used to like really, me and him would literally like late night while we're working through stuff, we would literally be on Pokemon TCG online playing each other, trying out new decks and whatnot. And like, and he was just in Nashville. He was in Charlotte. He goes to all like the big events. And so like we talked about that a lot where, hey, I'm collecting the cards because I like them, but I also have utility because I can play this game and I can make money playing this game, or I can win more cards playing this game, or whatever it may be. So yeah, that's been around forever. But what's not going to happen is you're not going to have, Magic the Gathering reach out to you and be like, all right, you got, every single card in this set, so we're going to give you 5 packs for free of this.
Interesting.
Like,
yes, that is very true.
So while there is absolutely utility with Magic the Gathering and Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh, because you own these cards, you play them, you get tired of playing this deck, you can go sell that deck and you can go make a new one. So like it's very similar, but where it stops is when you are just sitting there with those cards, nothing's going to happen. You have to actively do something with them. Yeah. And so while I understand, just going back real quick, there's all these arguments about, hey, I just want the passive rewards in Top Shot. I don't want to lift a finger. I just want my collection to give me cool shit. And then there's the other people that are like, hey, like I want to go and do stuff with my collection, and by doing that, I'm going to get cool stuff. But hey, if I also get cool stuff just because I'm sitting here, great. I mean, I have tens of thousands of cards sitting in big banker boxes, and every few years I'll go through, because each box is for like different years. Like I went through like what was it, 2016 or 27, whatever the year was, and I have a bunch of cards that I got from breaks, from opening boxes, and at that point there's a lot of rookies in there that were nothing. I went in and I found 5 silver prism Tyreek Hill rookies just sitting there, like $80 cards just sitting there in penny sleeves. And so like, great. I was able to sell them, but like, Prism, Panini doesn't know any of the cards I own, Topps, Fanatics, whoever, they, Upper Deck, whatever card company you want to mention, they have no idea that I own any of these things. So I'm never going to get anything from them for owning it. Imagine if all your cardboard worked for you in the way that Top Shot did. And let's say you have the entire,
but it's not possible. Like it's like, that's the thing though, is like, it's not actually possible.
There's no way to track it 100%. You have no idea anymore whether autographs were done by the players, unless there's like videos of that exact card being signed. Even the relics, you don't know if you're getting exactly what is being shown in there. I keep seeing issue after issue with these type of things. So the one thing that I think about from way back of like a collection working for you is Pepsi points. Does anybody remember Pepsi points?
I mean, they're talking about it in the chat. We're talking about a little bit of like a Pepsi F14 jet. Yeah, people are talking about it in the chat.
Okay,
Apparently somebody
Pepsi.
redeemed a Gatorade cap for a Jordan cardboard. That is wild.
Yo,
Yeah. So you would have to collect them, and then like once you
A
got a
Gatorade
bunch of
cap or
them
a
just for
Jordan
drinking
card?
the
That's
drink that you
awesome.
loved, you could then use those points you got for drinking the Pepsis, and boom, you got T-shirts and luggage and trips and whatever.
I
And
drink
it's like
Sprite just because of Grant Hill. I'm sure I could have collected a lot more back then than I would
McDonald's
have.
Monopoly is a great example.
There we go. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, no. So like very, very just interesting sort of dynamics that you can sort of add to a game over time. So Sam, I guess like last thing that I'll sort of like go and ask you before like I do want to ask like some community questions, from different sectors, right? Like you have all your cohorts. So I have a little collection here from people who are sort of in my collector class, people who are in the higher like VIP tiers, and some who are just sort of new over here on Top Shot. But Sam, do you have anything else right now before we sort of get into like some of these questions at all about just just like the game in general, sort of like your experience with like esports or anything like that, and sort of just like what this conversation has done for you to move you in the general direction of this whole thing?
So I'm curious what the conversation, and obviously I know that there's only so much you can tell us. A lot has been discussion and things of that nature. But I'm curious if there's been any discussion about some of the like cards from rib packs and things like that are for inactive players, and if there's any utility with respect to
There we go.
Fastbreak
That's a good one.
that
That's a
you
big
can
one.
then use, like, you know what I mean? Like, can I, combine a Dirk and a Minnesota Timberwolves player and get caps threes for the night, or so, you know what I mean? Like, or something like really random like that, where there's some level of like utility. Has any conversations been kind of having for inactive players or players from rib packs?
So you're saying if somebody were to come back who hasn't been around for a while, can we give them opportunity to be able to play players they may not own, or play players a second time just by using what's already in their collection, basically, that may not be of that player?
No, I think he's talking about using like historic players in this game. Like, is there a place for them like with like historic players?
Oh,
Because like I
historic.
think Sam, when he first was on the platform, he was collecting Steve Nash. He was collecting players that weren't actively playing anymore. But now that the shit that sort of happened for like more active players, is there any sort of plan to go and add these kinds of players? Which I know the answer already, but like that you're getting the answer authentically from
Yeah. So
another user over here. So yeah.
There's two things that we are discussing, and both of them are early stages, and almost definitely, one definitely won't happen during the season. One probably won't happen during the season, but I can tell you the two that we're talking about.
Let's talk about it.
That we'll get those
This is
in.
awesome.
So number one, we're talking about potentially having certain nights that have a team component where you can use historic moments and team moments on top of any other player. But if you have rare historic moments, you can use them there. Legendary historic moments, you can use them there. And obviously having enough there that makes it worthwhile having them. So, it may be something like, hey, get the 5 players to do this, and you need a team that scores over 120 points or whatever. Something like that, or a team that has, more than 25 assists as a team that night, or whatever the stat may be. So that's one thing that we've talked about in order to get those in play. The second one, and this is,
that's a fire idea, by the way. I love that idea.
Blue Sky pipe dream. And honestly, we actually talked about this. We talked about this between Series 3 and Series 4. We actually had conversations with the 2K team. And
Get out of here.
We wanted to do flash challenges over the summer using 2K simulations, and we would have like a few games a night that would be flash challenges based on what happened in the 2K games. It didn't get to the finish line, but I think we're going to revisit some of those conversations, and hopefully we can get some simulations this summer where every historic player in Top Shot is on rosters and becomes usable within the game. So
that would lead into the historic sort of thing that you're talking about, where like, yeah, we have seen like this idea like parlayed before, and like it's really cool that you guys would be willing to go and revisit that.
Yeah, so like,
very cool.
Legit. Like I was on the call with 2K discussing this idea. Like it was discussed a few times.
It is such a fire idea.
It just didn't get there, and we're gonna try again.
Even
obviously.
advertise moments on the actual game itself. I'm a big 2K player, by the way. We play with Boards to Buckets. We used to play weekly. Now we're basically monthly.
Yeah,
every other month, I guess.
We could literally make a fast break court in the game. Like we could.
I know we have a Boards to Buckets court and our jerseys, like the full works. It's been a ton of fun.
Yeah, so I mean, we can do all that stuff. Obviously, it'll take somebody a lot of time to set all that up. I don't know if people know this, but Mo, who's on the community team,
he used to be a former 2K player, of course.
He's a former 2K pro with the Mavericks organization,
and he was a point guard. I was like, dude, I'll drop the point guard role if you want to go run point for our team. I'll sit off the ball.
Yeah, so
you're a pro.
Yeah, he still is very in tune with that community and knows people, and so we're gonna give it a shot again and see where we get to. But we are thinking about that, and we want to make sure that stuff isn't being left out. The last thing I want to happen is that Larry Bird and Magic Johnson and Dirk Nowitzki and Tim Duncan.
Of course.
People are like, all right, I'm going to sell these off so I can get the current players so I can use them. Like, that's not the point of Fast Break. That's not what we want to see happen. So if we can find ways to get those players involved in the game so people aren't thinking about consolidating, legends of the game into current all-stars, that's not what we're trying to do.
You could do some fun stuff. You could actually nerf some of the characters based on owning the moment. So, like, Glenn Rice, like he's probably like a 90, 91 three-point shot. So you could probably nerf him up to like 95, 96 if you owned his top shot tour moment or something like that. You could do some really fun stuff.
Yeah, it could get pretty
yeah. So obviously we're like super far ahead on stuff. But I think at least that lets you guys know that at least Vinos' mind is in that place because he has every basketball collector similarly situated. It's just a matter of how do we get everybody who likes basketball playing with this game. Right now it's active players. And so in my opinion, that's the biggest mover of the Top Shot market is that we are moving. And it sucks to go and say, but there is stuff in S1 and S2, which is not that collectible, which had a value of collectability that was way higher than like what it's actual for an average NBA fan coming to this website. I don't know that they want to see a Michael Carter Williams, MGLE up at this price when they can get an Anthony Edwards at this price. Same tier, same moment. So this helps sort of create a chasm between these moments, in my opinion.
Yeah. I remember buying the Michael Carter Williams Run It Back because
I'm sorry to go and bring that up if that was you.
I'm sorry. To complete the Sixers complete set. I had every other player from every season except for that Michael Carter Williams, and I finally bit the bullet and got it, and I'm happy I got it. But I'll never forget that game either. Like no one in Philly was excited for Michael Carter Williams. There was a bunch of other guys in that draft that we wanted, and he comes out the first game and just
triple-double
show against your Miami
Heat
on Bosch.
I was on a flight watching it, and I saw him go and score a triple-double. And then in that season, they traded him still. The process. We can talk about that all day. And
traded him because he won Rookie of the Year with us that first season. Then we traded him in between his.
And the Bulls are up right now, as Chewy says. We talked zero about the game, but we are up by 3 points. All right. At some point, we will go talk about this game. But Vinyls, we did bring you up here on stage because we do believe in the malleability of watching the game itself and contorting our lineups based on what we're watching. So we do go into one game and another on a given night when it's like a fast break, conversation. Like, hey, for all of us that have been like holding Anthony Davis tonight, like let us go and tune into these games to go and pluck them out of our lineups. So we're going to get into late swaps in just a bit. But just before I do, because that is a way that, in my opinion, you have sort of molded this game into an actual basketball conversation. Sam, anything else before we get into the half over here?
Yeah, you kind of touched on the idea of when you've been sending these emails, several thousand of the people you're sending them to are people who are inactive users, and you just touched on earlier, like I think when we were talking about what the question was that I was asking was like, how do older players or people who initially collected that haven't collected in a while get involved with the current kind of state of Top Shot? What are some things, whether it's specific to Fast Break or Top Shot generally, that you guys are doing that you think or that have been successful in reintegrating people, and where do you see those conversations evolving? And kind of like a last point, how much of this is just kind of the natural cycle of what you're doing, right? Like we see this in gaming all the time, right? We see it with Pal World right now. For those who are familiar, huge spike when it came out, big drop off right after that. And they're like really fine about it. It's like, look, you experience the content, we'll release new content, you'll come back, maybe you won't come back, that's fine. How much of that is just kind of the natural progression of what you're doing?
Good question.
Yeah. What's the new game that everybody's playing? Hell Diver 2 or whatever?
Yeah.
It seems like there's always a flavor of the month.
I'm still trying to go and play Starfield, which apparently isn't a game to go play anymore because everybody's abandoned it, even though it's an awesome single player.
I'll never forget the No Man's Sky release, but that's a whole other thing.
That's a good one.
Bring up some bad memories for people.
That's how we know we're a bunch of like dork hosts.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a good question. I do think there is a seasonality to it. The people who are coming back, I think we've polished a lot of things that we're doing, especially this season. We've made it so that your collection works more for you than ever before. We have the weighted airdrops, So before I even get the weighted airdrops, and obviously we have a lot of stuff going on. So maybe maybe you've given me an idea here. Maybe we'll talk to our content team and get out some, hey, what you've missed on Top Shot and have that.
And it's all good because I'm going to talk to Austin and I'm going to bring Jacob on. Like, we're going to talk hoops and we're going to be bringing in all this stuff. So you can just go and pass it on to them when they go and hop in.
Yeah. So, it's, man, where do you even begin with this one? I think, we are in a position where we need to continuously innovate and we need to keep things fresh. And we're in a space that moves extremely fast. And if we slow down, we fall behind as other people continue innovating. And I think one of the big things we pride ourselves on is we never slowed down. We are still going at the same speed that we were going 2 years ago. And we have a much, much smaller team. I think the NBA team at this point, there's probably less than 40 total people working on NBA on a daily basis, and compared to hundreds. And so, at one point it's, hey, we need to make sure that we are going to.
That's wild.
Yeah, so we need to make sure that we are continuing to innovate. And when people come back, we need to be able to show them, hey, we have locking now. And locking gives you these rewards. And getting sets gives you these rewards. And getting higher up on player and team leaderboards gets you these rewards. And getting, completing an entire set, we now have, people know them from the old days as the master challenges. We're now calling them expert challenges. I don't know if that name will stick, whatever the name winds up being. To me, it's basically a set completion reward. You complete the set, we're giving you the last moment, which in all of these cases is going to be potentially the best moment of the set. Because you showed that you were a collector of that set all season long. So what we've really been trying to do this whole season are really a couple tenets of, we want to stabilize the economy. We want to make sure that people feel comfortable going back to the high tier. I mean, we had a lull, before this season where legendaries were illiquid, where high-end rares were illiquid, and now they are moving and moving and moving. And it's just really great to see, and it really gives credence to the work we've been trying to do. Which,
by the way, you could thank me for like moving the Terra Rosier legendary whole floor, because I told one VIP about that, and then suddenly it just shot up to like 250 from like $100. I was like, this is the cheapest rare. Like, literally, LaMelo Ball just got injured, and like, oh my god, if I have $100, I'm buying this up within like 1 week. And so that's where you can see the price action follow game performance, and I'm totally on board with that. I think you creating this game has gone and at least given that level of floor production. Here's where I want to go and sort of deviate to, if you don't mind me going and interjecting and sort of steering the conversation. One of the big things I think for me as a Top Shot team captain is like, man, when you were on the on the challenge team, I don't know if necessarily you were in cohorts with the Moment team. And not because the Moment team didn't want to go and talk with you about what the challenge moments could be. It's just because this organization was so big and just, so spread out that maybe you guys couldn't have a chance to go and work together. So one place that I see that, Top Shot team captains could like have a sort of role inside is like, hey, let's say, for instance, Zach LaVine, he got injured, season-ending injury. Why wouldn't I go and as a Top Shot team captain for the Bulls, go and promote, Zach LaVine Bulls rare burn and like give a DeMar DeRozan rare as a reward because demand goes up, Zach LaVine Bulls rares go down in supply. And so I think there's a lot of ways in which we can all sort of like work together on these kind of things. And so what I got to go and like first, before I get into the community questions is, on the community side of Fast Break, to what extent do you think that we're going to be able to go and build upon as a Top Shot community like myself, leading the Top Shot Bulls, as a B2B, third party, like, we're building stuff even already right now without Fast Break even being around. We're so gung-ho about this. What are sort of the levels in which you think the community involvement will be involved in this game? Because I do think that whether it's challenges, anything else, more community involvement takes a lot of the stake off of you guys because it's 30 teams in the NBA. So you can only create so many contests for an entire NBA slate. So
absolutely. I mean,
that is my last thing that I will say.
Yeah. So like, Jer, who's our back
an amazing engineer.
Yeah, he's our back end engineer, and he's built the back end that can literally have unlimited lobbies.
Very cool.
Unlimited permutations of Fast Break. And so I think our blue sky vision is to make it so it's very similar to DraftKings or FanDuel, where you can either play the games that we're offering with the prizes we're offering, or people can create their own lobbies and give away whatever prizes they want.
Very cool.
One of the things I liken it to, and I have presented internally, is think about going on ESPN. ESPN has built their fantasy game, and they have the stats in, and they have all the stuff you need to play the game, but you make up the rules for your league. You guys make up what the winner gets, what the loser punishment is, how much the buy-in is. Everybody does that on their own. Like ESPN doesn't take any money. ESPN doesn't, put anything in there about, hey, we're going to give you these prizes. It's very hands-off, and people can do whatever they want. So just imagine, next season potentially that, the Miami Heat can have a league. Like think about a bracket contest, and you have the Miami Heat bracket contest. Well, the Miami Heat Fast Break contest, and you can have Miami Heat fans or whoever wants to join. You guys have your own prizes, whatever you want to give. Or you have an entry fee, which is, hey, you have to put in a rare moment or you have to put in a legendary moment. And then at the end, everybody gets, the winner gets whatever. So that is something that we are very keen on doing. And we want to create it so that people can create their own lobbies and have fun. And we are going to provide the stats. We're going to provide the engine. We're going to provide all that stuff that you need so people can come in and use
Let's go. This is what I like to hear.
They have to have Top Shot
moments. Give this man some fire right now. Because in my opinion, what this could do, because we don't have an actual on-site mechanism. Like for instance, I could run a Bulls contest tonight when Zach LaVine got injured, submit those Zach LaVine rares, just freaking drop them in, or don't, and see the price hopefully go up if he gets traded next season and doesn't get a new moment. We don't know what's going to happen in the offseason, but we could leverage that new player news discussion because we know that in Fast Break, the player news drives sort of up the demand of moments in some way, shape, or form, and so do player news as well.
Absolutely.
Obviously, I think these mechanics could work excellent, and so I look forward to that. And if there's ever a team to go and sort of tease these community tools to, we are your people to go and do it because as even with these tools being available, obviously WNBA they need some love as well. You guys can't be expected to go and take on the entire role of this stuff. So at the very least, you guys have given us enough of a platform for us. Right now, we're going and building our own Fast Break iteration 8 days before we get into the actual Fast Break contest.
It's funny. I was looking at that contest you put together, and we are in the same headspace because there are a few overlaps of what I'm doing for this upcoming one.
So I'm gonna give the credit completely for that to Jabari because, like, he comes up with the entire construct, and I just look through the whole thing, and I'm like, this makes sense or this doesn't.
Right.
But yeah, so why don't we get just off the top of your head, no cheating. You're gonna go and look at this tonight. Tell us what your lineup would have been tonight on our fast break bot if we're gonna go and bring that up right now. So let's see. We have right now, obviously, a couple games that are like played. So let us go and pull this up. Sam, do you have any questions before I go in and I pull this up?
No, go ahead. You're good. I would just say, like, I appreciate what Vinyls is saying about Topshot consistently trying to innovate. I think regardless of like any individual user experience on that platform, I think, or on what Topshot is done, I think there's no question that has been at the core identity of the company. And at the very least, even from the outside, regardless of whether a participant or not, like, it's been consistent innovation, being really unapologetic about being risk takers, but still like being apologetic when they feel like they've made mistakes or, needed to do community outreach in order to talk about some of the things and be constructive and reflective. So, like, if nothing else, I do love that about the identity of the company. And from everything that you've talked about in terms of what some of, Fastbreak could offer in the future, it sounds really, really cool.
Yeah, Fastbreak, the composability of Fastbreak, and now that everything's on chain, we didn't even talk about that, but I am so
we're gonna
excited.
get there because we're already trying to build on your chain, but you haven't let all the keys out yet. Yep. But we're trying to do our best to scrape up everything we can. It's been fun.
All right, so tonight was 5 players, 17 3-pointers made.
Right, so we're going to run through real quick. So off the top of your head, you'll have about, let's say, 10 seconds if you're going to choose a player out of a matchup. You don't know their score right now. So Phoenix and Dallas, anybody in 3-pointers you're choosing tonight?
No.
Nobody there. Houston and the New Orleans Pelicans?
No.
Okay. Orlando and Cleveland?
Donovan Mitchell.
I think Donovan Mitchell was out tonight, if I'm not mistaken. Somebody said it. Donovan Mitchell did not play today. So yes, somebody said that. Yeah. We have even our bot, like, that's actually telling people when people are out. So you could actually see in here when he was announced out. He was announced out at some point before.
Not going on. I get so out of the loop. All right. Nobody from that game then.
Well, I went Garland because I thought that Donovan Mitchell would be out. So I thought Garland 3s go up. Let's see what happens. Detroit, Indiana, you still have no one left. Anybody from this lineup?
See, this feels like a perfect game to have Halliburton, but at the same time, like, I would hate to use Halliburton on the 3-point night.
Exactly. And for our game, you only get 1 try per person, no tiers.
Yeah. You know what? I'd probably go Cade. I'd probably go Cade here.
Cade Cunningham, interesting.
Yeah. So
you can go for 3. He was probable tonight.
Charlotte, Utah. I would probably have thought about Brandon Miller or Trey Mann. I think both of those guys are playing really well, and both can shoot the lights out when they get hot. So those are the only 2 I would consider there. Toronto, Brooklyn. Oh God, no one. Chicago, Boston. I mean, Tatum's a threat on this every single night. Obviously been watching this game. Him and Kobe White have both been putting up a lot of 3s, so probably look their way in that game. Yeah. Let's see. Knicks and Sixers. Sheesh. I probably would not use Maxey here, even though he's probably jacking the shots up. Guy who surprised me last run, Dante DiVincenzo, I probably would have played him. Just as a
I think we lost. Dream. Yeah, I think we lost Dream. Dante's been fantastic. I think he was doing particularly well in that game too. Oh no, they're just the stream just coming back. I am curious. Wait, do we have him back?
Sorry about that. Yeah. That was me. That was my fault. Dante DiVincenzo, I caught that last comment that you made. Yes, he's been on fire, and he was actually my main guy today. So I went quickly to go and say, my main guy today, and then I accidentally
disconnected
off the stream. But Dante DiVincenzo, it's amazing how great he's been from 3-point range. So yeah, that's what happened with me just now.
Yeah, and on that team he's gonna play 35 minutes. It's that's
he's a Tibbs guy, and also Sam loves Tibbs.
You start for me, you play 35 minutes. Period. End of story. I guess
you're on my 7-man crew. We're gonna go run you 40 minutes into the ground. Yeah, and but he's taking 10 threes per game. It's amazing. It's an automatic lock. So that's in some ways where maybe in the past you thought Dante DiVincenzo having a rare on the platform is not a good thing, but then all of a sudden Tibbs revitalizes this guy to over 5, 6, 7 3-pointers per game, and he's just firing them up right now and scoring an average of 21, 22 points per game on ridiculous percentages, 40% plus.
It's amazing how people are like, why would you do another rare of that player? And I feel like instead of saying that, people should be saying, why aren't you doing a rare of this player? Why aren't you doing a legendary of this player? Guys that really stand out. I'm so excited that we were able to get Vince Williams' Top Shot debut and
it's going to be a rare, which is crazy.
And not just a rare, an MGLE.
Yeah, that's going to be a hard fought moment.
Yeah, so and we have Chris Dunn coming out in this drop, and we have we just had Nennius Keita come out as a challenge reward, which was really cool.
Which Boston Base and the Top Shot Garden has done a really cool, giveaway for that. I always love whenever the communities go and involve NBA players with it. I always give all the maximum support for all that. So if you guys haven't seen that giveaway, for sure go and contribute into it because it's really cool. I want to kick on the Kings.
I mean, people who hear me speak or see me in chat know that I'm a big proponent of Top Shot debuts. You can look at my collection. I have every single 3-star rookie on the entire platform. WNBA and NBA. That's just my favorite thing to collect. And it's so exciting to be able to get out Top Shot debuts in different ways. So having them as challenge rewards, having them as rares coming out. Obviously, the Kyle Anderson hollow icon is one of those that lives in infinity. But in this one drop, we have Gigi Jackson's rookie debut is coming out. We have Chris Dunn, which everybody's been waiting for that. Miles McBride just came out, and Nennius Keita just came out, and then we have the Vince Williams metallic gold, which is coming. And
all the other badass moments that are coming into this whole drop. So it's in general, I always do hunt the Top Shot debuts. That's normally what I do. I guess real quick, because I do want to get into some of these community questions because I felt obliged to go and ask for them, and then I got them, and so I should go and tap into it. But I guess one last time as far as Fastbreak is concerned, because I've heard you talk about this in the past, and so I think right now we should go and maybe just keep the expectations maybe at a certain level. But as far as set tiers, as far as top shot debuts, and sort of all these, I guess, sub tier moments within a certain tier moment, like a common, I don't think that Top Shot is going to be at a level in which they are going to sort of carve out value from these specific moments. And I think that if I'm getting what you're saying about communities correctly, it'll be sort of up to the communities themselves sort of create underneath this sort of nexus of this game, that sort of demand, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, yes and no. So
yes and no. Okay.
Yes and no. So I think that community games are going to get a lot more creative and wild with it. And
cool.
I've been famously poked fun at for Matt Bingo and always changing the Rex and not having any idea.
I'm a fan of the wheel, by the way. I'm a huge fan of the
wheel. Yeah. It's the stability of the moments that can be used in Fastbreak to me is a major feature of the game. It's super easy to understand. Any person can come in and quickly understand how the game is played, what the tiers mean, and all that stuff. Now, that being said, we are already talking about building a second lobby, an experimental lobby where we are going to try these things out, where Top Shot debuts
cool.
are going to get a bonus, where MGLEs maybe are the only rares you can use. We're going to try stuff
cool.
out. We're going and we'll have prizes for it. It's not going to be like, hey, just play this, trust us.
Ooh.
We're gonna
collecting is back. Maybe. Are you guys hearing this?
So we have been actively talking about it. We've been actively talking about it. We already have the ability on the back end. We just got to build it on the front end, and we just have a few things that are ahead of it in the priority list. But
totally get it.
We are going to get there, and we plan on trying everything out. We want to know what is the best version. I don't see us changing the base version just because of how successful it's been so far. But building, side lobbies that have potentially even better prizes because it is, maybe it's only Top Shot debut for commons, maybe it's only MGLEs for rares, and maybe it's only Hollow Icon for legendary. And we're going to play a game like that.
Just make sure that you create two different inserts, two different inputs, one for giving moments to an account and one for sending moments to go burn into a contest. Because I think that would be a very big way of sort of identifying whether
those are other things that we want to test.
If possible, I know we're asking for a bunch, but in general, what you're saying is awesome.
Yeah, I mean, we want to be able to use trade tickets in Fastbreak.
Guys, I'm not even feeding him any of these answers, but he's saying the right stuff. Come on,
we want to be able to do burning in Fastbreak, but
set collecting. Trade tickets. Let's go.
Yeah, we don't want it to be an entry fee, though. We don't want to be a barrier to entry to have to do these things. Like Playbook on NFL All Day, you have to burn to get into it. For us, we see that as a barrier to somebody that just wants to play.
What is burning to somebody who has no idea what burning is?
No, it is such a foreign concept. Same with locking. Well, locking is a lot less foreign because people get CDs. Mm-hmm. And when I'm saying CDs, I'm talking about at the bank where you
the certificate of deposits. We got you.
Thank you. Yes. Not a compact disc. If anybody even knows what that is, I'm old. Okay, forget it.
Oh no, CDs. We know what the compact disc are. Your vinyls never die, so you were predating even before that.
I have a lot of vinyl.
You were cool much before the CDs came in.
Yeah. So people understand that concept, but wait, you want me to burn my collectible? That is just such a foreign concept outside of this NFT circle. And to put that as hey, you're going to have to burn one of your collectibles just to play our game is just such a non-starter to me. It would just turn off everybody. If people want to play with that sort of hardcore rules, you're going to be able to do it yourself, or we'll just have a side game where people who want to, turn things up a notch will be able to do so. So these things are all things that we're constantly talking about and working on and talking to the league about and talking to lawyers and just trying to figure out what we can and can't do and making sure we're, staying within the bounds that we're allowed to. And so, I mean, the juices are flowing, the ideas are flowing, and, hopefully more than not, these things get released. But, been working on the team this week about new user onboarding. I think our one of our front end engineers, she's just incredible. She put together this whole idea of how new users are going to get onboarded. We've built a pack for brand new users. If it's their first pack, this is alpha because this isn't released yet. We're gonna have a 20 moment pack for $10 for people who are brand new users. And it has the 20 most used players in the last run.
You see, that is where this changes everything completely. And if you share it online from those moments, oh my God, just with the hashtag a 123 sort of social element to this, oh my God. And this is where always I saw this going. So I think for those who have said, hey, you know what, we're not even posting our own Top Shot moments. We're not even looking at the moments themselves. To me, it was always more of it's not here yet, but it will be here at some point. And when it is here, this is sort of how you carve out, sort of the collectability ID with this without having being a predominant feature of this game. So this is amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Yeah, the pack is called the Fastbreak Roster Booster.
And if we have referrals on top of that too, with every Fastbreak user that goes and like basically like if you share this like out to like a new topshot user or someone who hasn't used or bought a topshot moment in the past like 6 months, oh my god, you have sort of like a lot of ways to sort of open up the conversation again. Like,
Yeah.
hey,
Yeah, the one part that I am a little concerned about is just abuse on the pack because it's such like an awesome offering. We've seen people create
mhm.
additional accounts and all that, so we're gonna have to be vigilant on it. But I just pulled up the list of the top 20 most used players in the last run. I had to pull out Embiid, obviously, because like he won't be
Obvious.
usable. But Jokic, Doncic, Giannis, Gobert, Lillard, Tatum, Trae Young, Donovan Mitchell, LeBron, Devin Booker, Domantas Sabonis, Durant, Fox, SGA, DeRozan, Brook Lopez, Nick Claxton, Jalen Brunson, Anthony Simons, Jarrett Allen. If a new user comes in and gets this pack, they're going to have a moment from each one of those players ready to go
That is
and
crazy.
play fast break.
And I have to agree with this with Chewy. That pack would be awesome for captains communities for possible new user acquisition. It's not necessarily our role within this whole like construct, but like the reason why I sort of wanted to at least touch upon, our captains community is because for me, at the very least, I've always seen the advantages of burning, but I think that's only one side of the equation. For me, basketball is going to be the solution for this platform moving forward. So the more basketball fans that we can bring on and reacquire, because I think by now bringing on somebody who's never heard about Top Shot but loves basketball would be very hard pressed to find out who that person is. So to me, this is one way of leading in there. So I guess I want to sort of get into a couple questions. We'll start first from a couple captains. Because and we have Chewy in here right now, so it would be awesome for captains communities as probably new user acquisition. So I'll sort of like teeter that out there. So a captain said, I've thought about this over the years with various iterations of fantasy/moment related games that have gone unfortunately, and how we would add value or vice versa as a team community. To me, it comes down to a couple ways to go about it. Number one, offering additional gated communities for community members that would have community-specific prizes, which I think you've already talked about. This could be tied into team set completion, or other metrics, or of course favorite team. So I think that has already been covered. So that already seems like it's in the plans. Having community rivalries compete as teams against one another for supremacy, either tournament style or accumulated wins. And with the winning community getting prizes for their community. And so I think what we've seen today, actually, which is interesting, is I think it was @2me, if I'm not mistaken, putting together all of the team communities and like all their followers in one ranking, and how much like that brought up a lot of engagement on Top Shot, which I think was interesting and funny. But at the same time, it does sort of bring that demand behind just talking shit across one community versus another. So I guess to that extent, on question number 2, rivalry weeks, like that's something that I guess would be something that this user would want you guys to sort of take advantage of. And with team captains, all the more reason why we could just tag people in Discord when, like, let's say Clippers versus Lakers, right? Crosstown rivalry.
Yeah, so love the idea of community rivalries. One of the things that I really want to see happen in this game is head-to-head. I want on a given night that you're playing against the house, you're playing against everybody else, but then you also have head-to-head matchups each night where you get a head-to-head record, you get an overall record, and really get to brag about how good you are at fast break and all that sort of stuff. And gated tournaments is a really exciting thing to me, and I love getting invited to these type of things on DraftKings or Underdog or FanDuel or Prize Picks or whatever, where you just have like a small group of people. It's a private club, and you can whatever. Let's say people put up like a legendary moment that night, they can play that night in a private tournament, whatever it may be. So very into that. Another thing I really want to see happen is I want records to matter in Fast Break. So like we'll have a clean slate next season, and I'd love to keep track of everybody's win-loss records. And by the time we get to next March, because we're not going to be able to get it ready in time for this March, I want to have a legit bracket tournament of the best 64 fast break players by the time we get to March Madness next season.
That'd be tight.
And
so, with a much better belt than the NBA built themselves for this slam dunk contest, which was absolutely. Oh no, actually for Steph Curry and for Sabrina. I think that was the belt for them.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, we'll get a much better belt. That
as
a wrestling fan, I was horrified by that.
And I saw what you guys like actually designed for it, and it looked amazing. So
that was all. So for those that don't know, like Dolly is a art AI on ChatGPT, and we have subscriptions to ChatGPT, so we get like all these other AI devices, and so like our applications. And so I basically put in the Fastbreak logo, and I put in a couple different wrestling belts to model it after, and it made me that belt that I shared on the Fastbreak channel. And then I did it with a championship ring, and so it's going to be really cool that we're going to be able to do like some really fun stuff around it. And like the on-chain stuff, you're going to have a player card that's going to like show your wins and losses. And
that's going to be so dope. And when we can actually like have that as our NFT,
so people who have played this last run probably already have an NFT in their wallet and they don't even know it. And it's their Fastbreak player card. It is in your Dapper wallet.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And we always thought about that, like, because like I know that it got like a lot of slack like in the NBA Discord, but the fact that I guess the team like we figured out a way to take the original art from round 1 and develop that art progressively through ownership, round 2, round 3, round 4, that generative art, to me that's so cool. So the fact that you could actually have a player card that is both transactable but also customizable, and also a way to sort of reflect you as a collector, because a lot of times we get so focused on these moments creating our identity when in fact we sort of care about what we're doing. Like, so for instance, I got like the top like sale for like this moment in time. Like I seized the market, and like it happened sometimes. We were on stream the other day with an MGLE thing, and I was on stream and could have made like $150 on stream. And like that day would have been awesome to like share like that moment in time from Top Shot to the web on the content that we were sort of showing that night. And I know we're going to get there at some point or another. That's what digital allows you to go and do. So Sam, in here, like we sort of talked about already, like some digital rewards and sort of showcasing that, in our own online digital identity. Is there something that like you need more than that for that to sort of entice you? Like how often would you want to go and like text somebody like, hey, by the way, I just because you're losing against me this week in fantasy. So if you theoretically beat me in fantasy on Top Shot this week, you can go brag to somebody else like, hey, I beat Dream finally. So what gets you to make that move to go and do that? How enticing like would you be as a part of like, sort of playing this game and being able to share like your victories?
So I find
it's traditional fantasy.
Yeah, so I find it enticing, not just because of the competitive element. I think mainly for the competitive element. Like I think, and I'm just saying, speaking to me personally, the bragging element feel like I care less about, but that's just because of who I am as a person. But I respect, and I think as a community, I think people would care a lot about that, like being able to share victories over friends and things like that, and like having an integrated way to be able to be like, hey, I beat this guy, or I did this, or I was able to do this against this person. But that's just because I like playing for pride more than anything else. So I'm like, I'm good with that just being the
showing the victory itself. Not just like like an NFT procured of Sam dunking on top of Dream, like, hey, I beat you tonight, like, and sharing that like overt image, just being here on stream, like, hey, I beat him tonight, and here's where you can see a leaderboard where that happened. And I think in general, and hopefully Vinyls, we haven't gotten to show tonight as much of the active fast break sort of like component of what we can do on stream. But certainly, when it goes through like the early slates for like the beginning of the slate of fast break, we're certainly on, and we tell people, hey, these are some guys you might want to hedge on. And then, by the end of the night, like you can swoop in these other guys depending on, how things sort of shake up. And we did talk about late swaps quite a bit in a lot of shape, like, in a lot of forms. So I want you to go and weigh in on that. But before you do, because I really want you to think about late swaps, I want to bring this in. And also, too, I want to talk to my buddy Chulman, who is out here, I think, in another time zone. But I want to go and reach out to him and make sure that he's on to go and listen to what you have to say. But I want to go rip my fast break pack because I haven't gotten to go and do that yet. So,
oh, sweet.
We haven't gone to, and apparently what's really cool about even just like all the developments of Top Shot in general is the fact that you can get these rewards and still sell the packs on the marketplace right from rip as soon as you get them. So if you want to take that approach, do it. Us on Boards of Buckets, we tend to lean on ripping the packs because we just are degenerates and do that. But yeah, that's sort of I got 2 fast break packs, one for the 8-win and one for the 4-win.
Ooh, so, the 8-win one's gonna be spicy.
And if I could walk through my decisions into why I didn't win the 12-win pack, it would pain everybody in here. But people in here have already lived through that.
I ended up with 6 wins, I think, and I lost at least 5 nights by less than 5, like total score. Just brutal.
It's absolutely brutal. And like that's the funny for me, that's one of the funniest content parts of doing Fast Break is that we already have like little memes, little pictures of like Fred VanVleet, for instance, banned across his face. Jaylen Brown is the next one. Jaylen Brown is banned. He not only committed the robbery of not hitting his free throws, but also hitting some Miami Heat players. That's just not right.
Steph is banned on 3-pointer nights.
And Steph on 3-pointers is another one too. Although, that one's been a little bit more controversial because we have Strength and Moments who are big fans in our community. So they say give him another chance, and we may have to as the NBA's best shooter of all time. So let's do it. We got a couple moments in here to go and open.
Let's give this man some luck.
Absolutely. By the way, shout out to Mike Mummy for putting in the Rocket Power gif, man.
Oh yeah, wiggity. Kyrie Irving.
Okay.
Nice.
So this is for the first one.
Oh,
rookie debut.
Is this trade?
Oh, that's really cool. Okay.
Cameron Williams. Okay, I'll take it.
Nice. Top Shot debut.
I'll take it. That's just OKC. It's like a 10th player on their team, but he's actually pretty decent.
Man, still holding on a Series 1 locker pack.
Yeah, I've been trying to sell that one. So that was actually my fault. And I was here on stream. So there was a user who went and like bought a crap ton of them. And then the pack shot up to like $150 each. So I went and sold 3 of them. And I said, all right, guys, let's do a bet. Will the pack that I'm leaving be above or below that? And I lost that. But we do that on stream. But like, I never take it. It just the chat's always
the pack marketplace has certainly opened up a lot of interesting doors for people.
We have fun with it. Actually, like it's kind of crazy how much like this stuff takes like content over our actual games that we watch. It's pretty funny.
Ooh.
Delano Banton.
Kobe Buffkin.
Scotty?
No way. Delano Banton. Oh, I have one of those. I paid $50 for one of those one time. Delano Banton. Let's go.
Luke Extra Spite. See, I love these packs because like the way we build them is like you have no idea.
You don't know what the hell you're gonna get.
Series 2, Series 3, Series 4, the current series, and it's like every single set is involved.
But it's all good.
See, look, you got moments from 6 different sets. 6 moments, 6 different sets. Like to me, as like being around Top Shot for a while, like whether or not I hit a rare or legendary, these 8-win packs are literally my favorite packs to open in all of Top Shot because I know that there's like 120 or 130 different editions that can hit in here from Series 2 through the current series, and to me that's just exciting. I don't know, I love it.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. Like I think like opening these moments are always like a bunch of fun because I actually opened up 2 quick rip rookie packs back to back Wemby's right? So you just have no idea. And the craziest part about it is that you guys have messed with this so much. So let me ask you a question. Before Sam, you go and ask the next one. But whose decision was it on these pack rips to take away the colors before you go and scroll your thing on it and know what you're going to go and rip? Because on this stream, it has been a joke that every time I open up a pack, the best moments, it's the first one that I open. It could be the middle one. It could be the last one. It could be the first one. It does not matter. I choose it, and it's the best one.
Yeah.
And then,
So you'll notice like a bunch of stuff with the pack opening changed. I guess it was end of last season, beginning of this season. It has to do with the app.
That makes sense.
The way that things open on the app to like bring in like all the animations and stuff and have it have parity with the web. There were certain things that like sort of left. And I think like the hover and like reveal all and stuff like that are things being discussed of like coming back in some shape or form. But yeah, we do talk about those things too. It was one of those things where we needed to have the parity for some of the things we were trying to do and just getting the app up to like the right spot. And some things are better, some things are worse, but that tackling experience on app is just so silky smooth that we just kind of went that direction. And I'm sure that we'll revisit the web open and bring back some of those things that love.
For what it's worth, I actually like that the hover is gone. Right, I do think the reveal all is nice if you're just trying to like rip through things quickly. But the hover, I think not having the hover there. I mean, because like this is a Hearthstone player when you rip those packs and they have the
hover.
They have the hover. I'm like, I don't know. It takes away from the surprise of it. And so I actually like the fact that it's not there to be like, all right, which one is it going to be? Is it the last one? Is it the first one?
Yeah, I mean, when I open Pokemon cards, I'm always just like, I'll have the pack in my hand, and I'll go one by one, and I'll do everything I can to not look at the edges. So like, if I do hit that full art or that secret illustration or whatever, like it comes as much of a surprise as possible. So I personally like not knowing and just getting super hype as soon as I see that rare animation start or legendary animation start, get super hype, because like in a blended pack like this, it's not as much fun if you just go and hover everything. You already know, oh, I got a hit. Like the sort of the surprise of it to me is a lot of fun. And I've probably opened 50, 60 rips this season alone, and I haven't hit that many rares, but when I do, man, it's exciting as hell. So I think that in a pack like Hollow or MGLE where there's a guarantee, knowing where it is so you can open it last is great. And that's the way I used to open packs. Like I would find where like the guaranteed rare legendary is, and I would always save it for last. Now like you can't really do that, so like I definitely see why people would want it in like a guaranteed rare legendary situation, but in the blended packs where you don't know where you're going to get, man, it is so much more fun not knowing.
Now 1000%, especially because like even here where it was like watching Dream go through them, and it's like, okay, even without the hover and then getting the surprise, and then even the because I haven't seen these are the first time I've actually been off Top Shot for a long time. So these animations that when you hit on a rookie debut and stuff like that are all like really, really nice touches.
And the best part is like for people who like know the product, you see a quick glimpse of the team and the score. And it's like you're quickly trying to, because you saw me with the Raptors one. I'm quickly like, all right, Banton was the first one I said, and then Scotty Barnes because it was the right season, and like so you just like see those things, and then you get the animation. You're like, oh, which one is it? Which one is it? And like you have that sort of like it's like watching a break, and the guy is like really slowly, really slow rolling it, really building up the suspense. So. I would love to see us have a way that like you can like actually like rip the pack open the way you want to, and that you can like flip the moments sort of partially and maybe see what team it is and then have a guess of who the player is. Like I'd love for us to have that level of interactive ability with it. Like I'm just thinking about the Apple Vision Pro. Imagine being able to like physically open the pack while wearing the Vision Pro and like hold the cubes in your hand as you like slowly turn them. Like these things are going to be possible, a lot sooner than we think. And that is going to be really awesome.
That's insane. I didn't even think about the idea of.
And this is what I love about the fact that the people like who are building on Top Shot. I mean, the name Dream isn't for like some like random like euphemism. Like it's because like this is why I joined Web3. It's because of the possibilities that Matt's talking about. And so, in a lot of ways, as I told him today in private DMs, we follow the basketball. But when basketball follows the tech, that's where sort of like our interest level sort of comes conformed into like, okay, this is why this technology exists. This is why Top Shot exists. How do we sort of bring this back into the layman's eyes in a way that sort of allows them to like see all the possibilities of the future? Because we're all talking about it today, but we're like 30, 40 person stream. People come in and out throughout the night. I'm sure by the end we'll clock like 100 something. But like, we're talking about a very small populace of basketball fans that are sort of just trying to get an answer as to what this is going to become. And so, Sam, I want to go and present you the question. Okay, you have the idea of Fastbreak right now, right? What is something that as a collector right now, you have not probably bought a Top Shot moment in months, right? What is something? Years. Yeah, it's been like 2 years. And he's been hosting with the polls every week, by the way, Vinyls. And not because, he just hates the platform. It's just, he's like, why am I going to go and buy a Lavine moment when we suck?
I mean, I will say, I'll add a little bit. In fairness, my life has also changed a lot in the last 2 years.
He has a kid and a wife and stuff.
I got married and had a kid. Like, things have changed a little bit.
Yep.
That has happened. Yeah, that too.
I have 2 kids, so I feel your pain, man. It's a lot. It's a lot. So what do I have to do to get you to go buy a moment right now?
Well, I think the pack itself, so I guess my question would be, would that pack... So that pack that you talked about,
that pack is for a brand new user. You have
right, but what about reacquiring those old users that haven't like made a purchase in X amount of time?
Different type of offering for those users. Then that is specifically for,
that makes sense though.
Somebody comes in and wants to play Fastbreak and maybe doesn't fully understand the platform. They get this pack, which is something that anybody can understand, and now they have all these moments that they can play right in the game, and they'll see the players light up in the UI that they own, and so that's like sort of a light bulb aha moment. And then for bringing back users, we have to see, and we'll get a better idea during this next run how much we can reactivate users. But we'll probably have some sort of deal like, hey, we noticed you haven't bought anything on Top Shot in 12 months plus. Here's Dapper Balance to come back, and we'll probably have something on there like, hey, here's $20 Dapper Balance. If you don't use it within 24 hours, we're taking it back, sort of situation. Like, let's see if we can put some FOMO into it, like, hey, do it now or this offer goes away, because it's about trying to get people to just come in and check it out. And if we give them an unlimited amount of time, like, that doesn't really say, hey, you need to come in right now. So like, if we're trying to get people in and the run's just starting, we want them in the best possible time. We want them to get in like ASAP. So
right.
In the full experience.
And I know you only have a couple months to go work off of this, but I guess like from my perspective, as far as being a team captain is concerned, I very much think that if you can find a way, because we were, and this isn't like no alpha, this is no like secret, we were told in the past that like customizable packs could be something that team like captains could do like in the future. So I think in very much ways that, basically taking on the onus of new users to have X amount of moments to go and then be a part of like sort of like the inclusion product of, Fastbreak and also Top Shot as a result of that. I think a microcosm of that within the captains community could be something very, effective, especially since like we can sort of wield and like deal with dynamics there that are like actively present within our own teams. And I know that can get messy as well. So I can almost see the pullback on your face. But like,
no, it's not pullback. It's I'm gonna have an answer that you're gonna hate.
Yeah, the teams.
It was really, really close, man. It was built. It was ready to go, and a lot of people that were working on it are no longer with the company, and like it was sort of deprioritized. But like it was built. It was it was ready to go, man.
Well, I'm telling you, brother, like figure out a way, because like other team captains who are watching this with us, just give us the tools and we can do a lot of the work that people desire for with that in mind.
What we wanted to do, you know, there are so many things that we want to be able to do and provide for the community. And like,
I know
with a smaller team, it comes down to like priorities of
course,
you know, what we need to do as a business versus like priorities of the community. And like, you know, at one point, you know, Steve, Blockchain Steve, that everybody knows him as, who works a lot with the captains. Me and him spent like an entire week working with the tooling team trying to figure out if we could do private leaderboards for the captains. And there's a way that the leaderboards are built that we can't hide them unless we put them behind a feature flag. But then if somebody has a URL, then it gets, I don't know, it gets wonky. So like we weren't able to make it happen. I think that's something that can still happen in the not so distant future, where we actually can build the leaderboards for team captains. Team captains put up whatever the reward is. We handle all of the escrow and all like the technical stuff. You just have to put up the reward and do your own marketing and get people to go in there. But it won't show up on the main page, because then it looks like it's coming from us. It has to be. And so, like, you know, there are things we need to work through there, of course, just to make sure that like it's very clear that we're not the ones that are, you know.
It's just more about the fact that you guys should know that we do actively want to promote the most active players in this game in a way that makes sense for like the entire community. So, like for instance, like if we're driving you to go buy a DeMar DeRozan reward, guess what? We're also, through you buying that reward, also able to accrue like a balance that allows us to be able to throw like an in real life event, you know? So we're all sort of working together on this project, but you know, when we don't have these prongs and these tools to really go and develop this stuff, it becomes very tough. But I see where you are. It's a matter of prioritization. It's just a matter of just letting you know from me that we are here to go and help. And by like just giving you the example of Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan on that day, I'm driving Burns and I'm driving DeMar DeRozan moments from our account. That's what I'm spending the time to go and do for Fastbreak, especially because I think the next day or the next like 2 days from it was a free throw challenge. So it was like, oh, did you use that DeMar DeRozan moment? Oh, well, if you did, you could burn a couple of Zach LaVine rares and then get this moment out of it. And I think ideally this is sort of like the sort of nexus we want to have working together in the community. And I know it's super tough because you're managing a whole entire community. So I'm going to ask you right now before I pass it up to Sam for any more questions. But one of the coolest things that you've mentioned here on stream is how much you love building with the community in a way that maybe challenges you weren't able to go and do that. When, like, for me, somebody from the outside, it's not that I hate building with the community. It's just like, man, people got a lot of, preferences. So it's not always the easiest thing to go and deal with. So what is sort of your reason why like you get like gung-ho for this, and like why also you're doing a stream like this with us? Because this to me is actions speak louder than words. The fact that you're here, hanging out with us for an hour and a half of your time speaks a lot to how much you want to collaborate and build with the community.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's been we're in Web3. Web3 is all about collaboration, and frankly, we haven't done enough of it. I am in a role now where I can work with the community, and I choose to work with the community, and not everybody who's been through these doors is willing to do that and willing to put themselves out there, and doxing, whatever. People aren't willing to really get themselves out there, and so I've always been more ready, willing, and able to do that than pretty much anybody here, except maybe Jacob, of course. He makes the rounds, but I've always loved working in the community. I was part of the community. I had a show just like this where I had people from TopShot on, every week and did giveaways and was super into that whole thing. And so, there were so many things in the past I wish that we had gotten more community input and build stuff with the community. Like at the outset of offers, can you imagine if we went back and forth with the community and built them exactly the right way from the start? And I'm so thankful for the team that got them built, and we've just pushed out some amazing upgrades to offers that have already closed the gap on so many moments where people just go and make an offer and they didn't have any information there. So that was something huge that we were able to do. So it's when Fastbreak was opening up to external users, because we had done several games internally and everybody was just in love with it. When's the next one starting? I mean, we were doing 3-day runs or 1 week runs. And I think the first external run was 1 week when we had, I think 55 total TopShot collectors were invited for that very first one. And there's a playtesting channel that, the earliest playtesters were in, and we just, constant feedback, and our designer would drop in and drop screenshots. Hey, what do you think about this? Oh, hey, what if you did this way?
Which, by the way, I'm going to go right now and say that if it was not for me pushing in the captain's channel for us to be involved, we would not have been involved. Please, as someone who is a conduit now on this stream, you can know that not everybody is as, we're volunteers, but we are very good, I think, with our feedback. We should have been in there from the beginning, I think, as builders. I think we all can sort of be a part of that experience. But maybe you can shed light on maybe why that didn't happen at the beginning. And I know that I think that actually led to a very good game as a result, not including us in so early.
Yeah, so the 55 that were originally selected had a very specific criteria that our data engineers put together. And it was basically we wanted X amount of VIP level, we wanted X amount of new user level, and then we wanted the people who play challenges all the time that love the daily engagement type stuff. And so they gave me a list of 55. I got them in. It wasn't until the second run that we got all the team captains in, and we had put together that list in a very similar way. One thing we did differently for that one was we gave the VIPs an open invitation, but they had to take a affirmative action to say they wanted in. They weren't just automatically in. And then I think it was day 2 or 3 of that run, Steve came to me. He goes, "Can we add all the team captains in?" I was like, "Oh yeah, we should do that."
Yeah, and that's because I
got you guys in immediately. I was like,
I was literally Braveheart. I was Mel Gibson riding on the horse, I was and for freedom, we deserve a voice.
And
Steve
and I have so many DMs that it would take me a long time to go back and find that DM, but I was just yeah, why haven't we done that?
Yeah, no, and I totally get it. It's just more of the fact that I just do want to preface the fact that, and for people that these teams are really hard to put together, not because we don't want to work with each other, but the actual daily struggles of what you do. You don't always get a chance to go and talk. I don't get a chance every day to talk with Vinyls. Today I do. So today I get to go and say, hey, on behalf of team captains, we're honestly down with doing some really cool stuff with you that I'm sure you would like to do based on our conversation. Yep. And so, we get to talk today about that kind of stuff, but it's also letting you guys know too that, certain parameters in which what Vinyls can do, what we can do as team captains, and, the TopShot economy, these are all very separate things. For me, one thing I wanted to go and preface, yesterday is, we put out yesterday the NLL. We're going to basically be doing an in real life event in Chicago, in Miami, in Brooklyn, in a bunch of different places around the country, California. I wasn't invited in the West Coast chat, so sorry I couldn't name you off there, but it's just not on the noggin over here. But we're going to be doing an event across the country. And so then somebody went and said, hey, why aren't you guys doing a birding challenge with this whole thing? And I was just dude, let's not complicate just an in real life event for good
Welcome
vibes.
to my life every day. Here's
Like,
this awesome thing we're doing. Well, why aren't you doing this?
it's just like, and like, it's good to always see the people that are in there. Like, hey guys, the fact that like he's including all of our feedback in this, and also too like it's just you have to understand sort of like your lane in this whole conversation. So if we're throwing an event just to like get the crowd engaged for in real life utility, and Dapper is giving it to us, even with the sort of constraints that we all know are sort of within the whole construct of what's going on at Dapper. I mean, that's really cool that at least they're giving us a leverage to like create like a cool event in Chicago, in Miami, in Brooklyn, like all across the country. That's pretty awesome. So I think that should be something that's celebrated and not necessarily looked upon as a, hey, how can we poke at this one thing as well? So yeah,
I think it's amazing. I love what you guys are doing. I mean, I always have, and it's part of this whole community building thing. Not everybody's going to like what you're doing, or think that they can do it better, or have ideas like, why didn't you think of this? Like, we think about a lot of things, but thinking of them and making them happen are two different things.
100%. And that's why I always have to appreciate the execution that you've sort of like brought in. So, Sam, we also wanted to go and talk some hoops in here today. So I know you might have some questions on the NBA. And so I want you to get those ready. Let me see if there's anything from these questions that I had from the community that like haven't been answered.
While you're doing that, Dream, I do have getting the community questions. I did have one question that I wanted to address. That you guys asked me about the pack, because I was thinking about that. Would I buy a pack today? And the short answer is so I would say no, but that doesn't mean I wouldn't interact with Top Shot based on our conversation. I think the Fastbreak stuff and the way in which Vinyls, you talked about the idea of like the way you want collectors to interact with the product as a whole, or with Top Shot as a whole. Sounds to me like, all right, I put in my couple $100. I got a good collection of commons. Maybe some of them are old or whatever. And maybe now's the time where I'd be like, think more about buying individual moments for, particular, fast breaks and things like that. And kind of working my collection up through moment purchasing now, until I get to a point, where I can pick up the moment. So I think that's how, if you ask me today how I would interact with Top Shot, I would say no to the buying of the pack, but probably still interacting with the product for the purpose of, I like, at least for me to be like willing to jump in. I think Fastbreak needs to obviously go through some of the changes that you've been talking about, but that's kind of where my mindset today is at. That's not to say that I think it's a bad product by any means, or a product that I don't think people should interact with. I wouldn't be here if I didn't think that. It's just like, for me personally, where I am today, that those are the kinds of things.
There's also a new dad. So new dad perspective. This is very different than 2020, Sam.
Which it sounds like is where, given who I am, that's where you want me to be. Is that right, Vinyls? Do I have that right?
Yeah, I think you have it absolutely right. And so March 1st is when the next run starts. Like, if you show up on March 1st and you sign into your account and you jump on and take a look at what Fastbreak looks like, and you put a lineup together, that makes me happy as could be. You don't have to.
We're gonna do it on stream. Do you want to hop on? We'll do a lineup together. We'll like set it up for a couple days.
Sure, let's do that.
Yeah, because like that's one thing too that we've sort of done in the community is we've so Dabari, like the Lakers Showtime captain, he created like a planner, so like you could actually there.
Oh, his planner is unbelievable.
Yeah, so we've always built on top of like Top Shot games that we really believe in. So I mean, for me at the very least, moment ranks, and I know there's some people in here who are probably watching that loved moment ranks, and I think one thing that maybe Fastbreak doesn't do, and I don't know that it needs to do this, but one thing that I always appreciated about moment ranks, and that game in particular, is that the scoring system relied on the moment type, which to me is what makes a Top Shot moment, sort of different from one moment to the next. Because when we talk about the collectability, it's like, like Steph Curry's, I think, debut moment is not a 3-pointer, but I think the S1 moment that I had like 4 of that I
actually thought this was part of like the original document. Should we or should we not have bonuses? And I think when it came down to, and I think the reason why it became like the tiers that it did we didn't want, and when I say we, I really mean me, because other people tried talking me out of it, and I was pretty steadfast on it. I didn't want bonuses sort of ruining the beat the score sort of concept. When we have a situation where
I
you
agree with that.
you need to get 25 assists, and if you play like a certain moment, you get a free assist, and you wind up winning because of that. Like that to me almost feels less fun to
It
win.
also feels like a flash challenge again. It makes it
Right.
very moment specific when you're trying to sort of get yourself out of the claws of a predefined moment that you need to have for this whole thing.
Exactly right. And by leaving it open ended with the tiers, it was like the least inflammatory way to like, you know, divvy up people's collections, because tiers has been a part of the product since day one. But if we were starting to get into badges or whatever, like that's when it starts getting into, putting our hand on the scale and trying to like move certain types of moments. Here we're just saying, hey, rares are worth more than commons and legendaries are worth more than rares, which has always been the case. Of course, there are some rares that are worth more than some legendaries, but you know what I'm saying.
And I agree with that. Like it's simple enough. Like you can't re-engineer what already happened. You can try to go through that plight, but developing a game plus doing that adds on a lot of sort of, schematics that you shouldn't have to go and deal with while you're building something. It's almost destructive to that, game being developed because you're working on another issue that it's just like it's you're not starting from scratch. You have to sort of build upon what the economy is and sort of move forward from there. So for me, the biggest dramatic effect is the fact that if rares are falling. So Sam, actually, I'm going to go and pass you the question right after I go and ask this one. So I want to ask this one right now because today on Tandy's stream we had MBL and also James Dillon Bond, like Trevor Dillon Bond, on stream with Floaty, and I asked a question. What do you think a rare moment on Top Shot should be? Like the actual number value behind that, right? So this kind of gives into the ideas of tiers, where somebody who hates tiers might say, you know what, they should mean like dirt nothing. Or somebody who is a proponent of the game might think, hey, you know what? I don't know. Maybe the mechanics do involve some way into the actual pricing of a rare or like a legendary, but like, how do you feel like Fastbreak gets into the floor of a moment? And of course, I will go in preface too. The floor is not representative of the value of the moment. The floor is not the value of the moment. Never. It's just not indicative of that. So I say this very lightly, just as a easy way for us to talk about the UI on Top Shot.
Yeah, so it's interesting. I think that rare moments are if we go back to the beginning of the conversation tonight, we talked about how the marketplace feels healthier. And another part of that is good players are worth more than bad players, regardless of whether Fastbreak exists.
Exactly.
Like, I'm not ever going to go out and buy cardboard. Who can I make fun of that's not going to get me in trouble? I'm not going to go out and buy a. Jesus.
You could say Ersin Ilyasova. He came from your 76ers.
Oh, here we go. Perfect. The guy I hate most in the league. I'm never going to go out and spend more than $10 on any Al Horford item ever. It could be like his game-worn jersey from winning the NBA Finals. I would not pay more than $10.
I'm a University of Florida guy. That pains my heart, but I get what you're saying.
Why the Al Horford?
I got to hear this. There has to be a reason.
He sandbagged the Sixers.
That is true.
He was a Trojan horse. Like I'll never forgive him.
Went to
and
the
his
OKC.
Sister, don't even get me started. But
that's true. That's very funny.
Everybody has,
and also
players.
On Top Shot too. Like that's also why he's saying it, is because I think a couple of his first moments were like as a Sixer.
On Sixers, and I had to go and collect an Al Horford Sixers moment to complete the Sixers set, and that was painful. Maybe we could talk about that at another time, about having collect the guys that are no longer with the team that maybe you hate. But the point I was getting to was like there are a lot of players that people would not pay anything for. If you go and look up, even their autographs on eBay for cardboard, they're $1 or $2. Like nobody wants to collect them. And so I think our marketplace is starting to show that, rares, even if it's a a bad player are not going to be like these crazy expensive moments. But, and obviously rares, the way they were picked in previous seasons is very different. We're a lot more careful now with the players we select for these sets. We make sure that they're the better players or their top shot debuts or rookies or whatever it may be. Because we don't want a situation where people see a rare of a player and they're like, why would I ever want that? Like this player is not collectible at all. So like we've really been trying to make an effort to like keep those players out of that tier, because if we're like, oh, why is this here? Why would anybody want to get that thing? So like we've just been really careful with the curation and making sure that it makes sense, that the players or the plays are incredible. And so, no matter what, players are king in collections.
100.
I'm
And the
always
NBA is
going to
a
spend
player-driven league.
more on a Luka than I am
Mhm.
on a Taj Gibson. I'm always going to spend
Mhm.
more on a Jokic than I'm going to spend on a Cameron Payne. I'm always going to spend more on a LeBron James than I'm going to spend on a Sam Merrill. Like it's common sense, but like common sense was thrown out the window when things were pumping in 2021. It was like, what moment can I get my hands on? Because everything's going up.
Well,
Now
we still
people are
do have to
thinking
figure out
about
the
it.
safety valve, though, because this league is going to change, and like all the big podcasts are talking about it. What happens when LeBron is like gone from the league? Steph Curry, who's the face of the NBA? So
Yep.
in the same way that the NBA is going to have to go and sort of deal with that, we couldn't be like, I would be sort of like not talking to the elephant in the room if I didn't say that this year's sort of movement of demand behind a lot of these packs are probably moved by these rookies. These rookies are in a big way this
Yep.
particular season, held up to a certain degree.
This rookie
And so,
class is incredible.
absolutely incredible.
Just so much fun to watch. Like I saw a stat today where Wemby is the first player in NBA history to have 150 blocks, 150 assists, and 75 three-pointers in the same
Mm-hmm.
season. And we're at the All-Star break.
Mm-hmm.
He's the first player to ever. I know those are cherry pick stats, but the fact that no player has had those three, it doesn't like compute that would be possible in a whole season, let alone at the All-Star break. The crazier thing about that stat, Chet Holmgren is, I think, 7 blocks and 6 assists away from joining Wemby. They will be the first 2 players ever to do it. It's never been done before this season, and now the 2 top rookies are both going to do it with over a month left in the season. It's like it's crazy how good this class is, and it's probably, quite frankly, the best class since 2003. Like you're going to be hard pressed to find a class that has 2 players this caliber in the same class. Like,
So I guess the question that I would ask then is like, next season there will not be like this sort of headliner class. I think next year that'll sort of be the same as this year,
we'll
right?
just lean on Caitlin Clark for as long as we can.
She's going to be amazing. I mean, it's already amazing.
She had a tough game tonight, but she'll bounce back.
No, I mean she's going to be the one who's facing off against Steph next year for sure. It's one of those things though that I guess we do have to sort of like think about, like, what's the reason for owning the new series? Because I think what you've done is create like a reason why you should collect different tiers. But as the series go on, the tiers sort of deflate over time in terms of ownership, unless like you have like a cohort of people who are collecting diehard, team series after team series. So is there any sort of thought in terms of because that's not your responsibility in the end, like to like create these sort of like market dynamics for demand, but is there sort of any thought process into like the rookies? And so I think in a lot of ways what makes the rookies really interesting in Top Shot is that Top Shot has done a great job last year and this year of keeping that supply super low. So even by introducing new supply of the rookies, you're going to still have like very like low supply game pieces. But sort of what is your thought process in terms of like owning a Jason Tatum rare Series 2 versus Series 3 versus Series 4 versus Series 5? Will Fastbreak be a part of that decision making, or is this like sort of like an annexation of the community itself?
Yeah, so Fastbreak is certainly not going to be used to differentiate between players in different series. Maybe we'll do an experimental side game where you can only use moments from the current season, or you can only use moments. you can only use moments from series 2 or whatever. Like we don't want to make it so that like players aren't in there. Like how much fun would Fast Break be if you can't use Wemby, you can't use Cade, you can't so we got to be really careful. Like if we're going to do it, it has to be the current season, because if we go back to series 1, there are a lot of great players that would not be in the game.
Yep.
So it's like when you say Jason Tatum series 2, series 3, like here's the way I look at it. Jason Tatum has a Origins. That's a pretty fucking awesome moment. Jason Tatum has a Top Shot debut. Fucking awesome. First ever Top Shot moment. To me, same thing as a rookie card. And so anything else in between there is going to come down to the context of the play over time, I think. And so if his series 2 moment is, maybe an okay moment, but series 3 is like him putting up 50. I forget. One of them is like him putting up 50. It's like, oh, this is an unbelievable performance. I remember this. I want to own this particular performance from this particular game. I think it's going to come down to the context of the moment in the future when we're talking about these in between years for players. But rookie year I think is always going to be collectible. Top Shot debut is always going to be collectible. But everything else in between, it's going to come down to the play, because that's what's really driving whether or not people are collecting it. Obviously the player name, but we're talking in the future. 10 years down the line, somebody's going to look back and be like, all right, between the series 2 and series 3, oh, this one's way better, I'm going to get this one. Like that's what it's going to come down to if there's a decision between it. So I don't think we're quite there yet, but looking back at series 1, some players have 5-6 moments and it's like, all right, which one do I get? All right, this Top Shot debut seems to be really popular. Why is this one so much more expensive? People will be like, oh, right, because Top Shot debut. So I think there's all these things that play into it, but at the end of the day, when you're in those in-between seasons in a player's career, it's going to come down to the play and the context of it.
I love that answer. And I think we have a very good community right now, people that appreciate it. Every single night we're on here watching this. We're actually watching the games. We talk about it. We play like all sorts of games through it. Like obviously tonight we wanted to sort of introduce you to the crowd, talk about, just naturally like a conversation between all of us. But yeah, we very much interact with the actual game itself. And so for us, when Sam and I first started Boards of Buckets, it was always with this template in mind, watching the game and sort of reacting live to stuff happening, and then Top Shot maybe mince the moment. And there was a night with, Harrison Barnes that goes and hits, a game winner, Sacramento Kings against the Phoenix Suns, where Chewy rigged, the vote for the Sacramento Kings game to be shown on our stream. But luckily he picked not the best game of the night, but for sure the game that we should have been watching in retrospect. And so became like a really fun moment for us. And so now we get to sort of have a game to go track throughout the night. And I think that's a lot of fun. Sam, I don't want to keep, Vinyls over here like way too much time. Got a few community questions, if that's okay for you, Vinyls. But
Sure.
If you're okay to stick around, and like Sam, if you have anything else right now, feel free to go ahead. And if not, I'll just fire these away. I think for the most part, they're pretty easy.
I could probably think about 10 more minutes.
10 more minutes. I'm going to go and fire these away.
Sweet.
Pretty quick. What do you think, Sam?
Yeah, fire away.
Fire away. Okay. Cool. So, in your opinion, what are Fast Break's biggest weaknesses currently? What are the plans to fix and improve? So, what's like a big weakness that you would like to improve on?
I think one of our biggest weaknesses is just the social aspects of it. Like you can't search for somebody in a leaderboard if you want to see how somebody else is doing. The lineup sharing, we finally got that live and you can share it on Twitter, but it's not quite where it needs to be. We want to add a lot more social aspects. We want to add bragging rights. We've been talking about adding achievements. Think tags, but much cooler. For certain things you do in Fast Break, and then you can show off, even making like the belt into an image that goes into your profile, like, hey, winner of a run in Fast Break, stuff like that. I think we don't do well enough, and we're aware of it and working hard on it, but I really want to up the social aspect of the game.
Socials is the big thing there. All right, another thing. So this is more of like a metric question. So I guess they're asking you for like the metric that you track the most. How does Dapper measure success with Fast Break? Is it the number of new users, the number of users who consistently engage, Is it how much each user spends in the marketplace to participate? I'm sure you guys look at all of it, but sort of like what are like the guiding metrics into like knowing, because I think this leads into late swaps into like maybe metrics that would have informed that decision.
Yeah, so late swap came out of metrics we were tracking with daily active players. We noticed very clearly that any day that had a game start before 7 p.m. Eastern had up to 20% less people playing. And so the way we fixed that was with, late swap, basically making it so that it's not just late swap though, because it's late swap and it's late entry. And obviously you can't use the players who have already started playing, but by adding that option to do late entry, we not only stopped the daily active users from dropping, we actually saw for like the first 7 days straight of this last run, the number continued going up, even though we didn't invite anybody new except for like some people that were coming in off the wait list. So we were looking very clearly at that. We look at day over day retention, but then we also look at cohort day over day retention. So what I mean by that is we'll look at, okay, here 4,000 people played day one. There were 2,000 winners and 2,000 losers. Of the 2,000 winners, 100 or 1,900 came back the next day. Out of the losers, 1,850 came back. So we had like 85 to 90% retention for that day for winners and losers. But then we also looked at, okay, these people started playing on day one. What is their retention day over day throughout the run? Okay, this person played their first day on day two. This person, and so each day that a person played their first day, we tracked, how long or how many days they played after that. So a lot of retention tracking data, just making sure that, it's a sticky game, especially if people come in later. And, this may not be a surprise, but, the later people join, the less likely they were to come back and play another day, which makes a lot of sense. They realize, oh, I'm never going to get the 4 wins. I'll come back for the next one. So that's a big one. Let me think. We just did like a big data deep dive. I'm just trying to think of
and I've read some of those questions. I don't think one that was necessarily hit on, because like I think for those of us out there watching, this game live and are in tune with this interview, you might want to know how many of the winning lineups include a late swap. So like what percentage, like is it such an edge, I guess, so to speak, because of course I have to go and defend people who are time, place, manner sort of adverse to being a part of late swaps, or people that have kids at night that they can't be as in tune with like the sort of injury updates. But what is sort of like the edge displacement there?
So as it turns out, late swap really didn't change all that much in terms of winning and losing.
Ding ding ding, definitely.
And I think there were concerns both internally and externally that it would change the game in a way that it would negatively affect people who were in Europe or weren't able to make changes in real time. What we saw happen instead was more West Coast, more Western Conference players got play compared to other runs, especially LeBron and AD, who were both outside the top 30 2 runs ago, and last run they were both inside the top 30.
Because that's all the options you had at that point in time. And
Exactly.
You probably won a night because of doing that move that you wouldn't have made otherwise if you had the full slate.
It was such a bad experience before where you were like, all right, I'm just going to take a chance. These guys are always questionable. They're going to play. And then they don't play and you lose that night. And it's like, oh, man, I was doing so well, and now I'm completely out of it. This sucks. Like, that feeling of helplessness just was terrible. And so what we saw, like, the 3 people who won didn't use the 3 people who got to like 13 wins really didn't use late swap very much at all. The people who had more wins, it wasn't necessarily because of late swap. There were people who had 4 or 6 wins that used late swap way more than people who had 8, 10, 12 wins. So there is no there's no signals at all that it is affecting the game in any way that is recognizable yet, and maybe over the next couple runs we'll see a pattern form. But as of right now, there is nothing showing us that anyone has a massive advantage using late swap, and the amount of people using late swap really isn't a large percentage of the active player
Let me ask
base.
you a follow-up question then. For those out there that may be like saying like, yes, I actually like understand those metrics. For me as a user on this night, I would have been better having a bench spot. Is this a way to like suggest that late swaps are here to stay, or that this bench spot is still something that you are interested in implementing to maybe offset some other metric, or do you want a more active like participant base like we sort of have right now?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I know other games have like this bench spot, and we've talked about it a lot and how to implement it, and we now have the ability to implement something like it. I think the bench spot does add some complication to the game because you're telling people pick your lineup now, pick this player who may or may not be used. And here are the rules of how that player can be used, and if a player's out, which player, let's say you have a situation where two players are out and we don't have late swap, and your bench guy comes in for one of them. How does it determine which one it comes in for? What if LeBron and AD are both in your lineup and they both don't play, and your bench guy gets moved in? Are you going to get the play for LeBron, or are you going to get the play for AD? So there's a lot of logic that people aren't thinking about that's going to come into play in a game like this, where you have fatigue, and the other games that have bench spots, it was a one-off night. It was daily fantasy. Here you're playing over 17 days.
That is very true.
There's
That's actually the biggest reason for this not working.
Right. There's other logic built in. So, late swap as it currently is going to stay, just because every metric we looked at for it was up in a extremely positive way.
I could see that.
Now, one thing that was down was the amount spent on rare and legendary. And after doing a lot of deep diving, it had nothing to do with late swap. It had everything to do with the run being way too hard, a lot harder than expected, because a lot of people couldn't reach 8, couldn't reach 12. So there really wasn't a reason to go out and add those star players at higher tiers, because
the parlays were tough. They were like cruel. They were cruel.
So hopefully this next run, a lot more people are in it to the end, and we see that, change again. But, we're keeping close tabs on that, but really digging deep into it, it really had nothing to do with late swap.
All right. Well, I don't want to keep you too long, Sam. I'm going to give you one more question, and I got one last one for Vinyls, and then we'll let him out of here. But Sam, you got anything else?
I think you should go. I have a general hoops question for him. That's nice.
All right.
We didn't touch on hoops. So why don't you go your question first?
I'm going to go and put it in his head first. My only question was, what is your favorite moment this season on Top Shot? So just give it to us, because as you saw from like our intro banger that we have, we're going to do a new one this season. And so for all of our like very dedicated fans, we have all of our data for like who they are popping into this stream. Everybody's going to go and give basically their recommendation for their favorite moment for our intro that we're going to be doing this season. So we want to ask you, and obviously think about this. You don't have to like answer right this second.
Favorite Sam, moment from this NBA season.
This year, yep, on Top Shot, so that we can add it. So every clip on this video will be from Top Shot.
Oh man. All right, let me think about this.
But if you want to really think about it, you can always tell us later on, and we'll go and make it.
I had a couple in mind immediately. I'm just making sure I don't forget about one that would be just like a bonehead error here.
Which, by the way, the reason why I know that you're not, curating the moments on Top Shot is because B-Ball Paul does not have a rare. Because that would be, if I saw a B-Ball Paul rare, I'd be like, oh man, like Vinyl's just freaking putting his game piece out here for like, he's just advertising this thing. The man has been averaging these offensive rebounds, but he got injured, and then I don't know, it was like a weird recovery when Embiid came back. So I was almost like, oh, it's gonna be him or Bol Bol. Or not Bol Bol, I'm sorry.
So
Mo Bamba.
So honestly, I'm looking because I wanted to make sure that I don't give away moments that aren't out yet, because I've seen moments that have yet
Oh,
to
I see.
be released. Okay, I'm good. Okay, so there are 2 moments that are yet to be released that are going to beat this moment out for me, but as of this moment right now, it's got to be Ja Morant's for the win. I was
Okay.
giddy like a little
that
kid
was so nice
watching
against the Pelicans.
watching that game, and he
Oh
comes
my
back
God,
in his
that was
first
so
game
good.
and has a legit game-winning buzzer beater. Like, it was like storybook stuff, and then unfortunately he got hurt quite soon after that. But
But that
man,
game was so nice.
what an awesome moment.
Zion was playing like crap, but oh my God, I was at my friend M the Six Man, who's the one who like makes like all of our banners, all of our like graphic design, like this shirt, like everything, like graphics related. He did the intro video, but I was at his place, and so we were watching that game and just possession after possession, and the Grizzlies crawling back, and then Ja coming off after a long layover. That was his first game back, right?
Yep.
And then actually, I think Top Shot themselves that night said, "Oh, this is turning into this moment."
Right.
And that's the first time I ever saw that.
So we have a channel on Slack where it's just basketball talk, and when plays happen, we just we talk about them, and we're like, all right, just in case somebody didn't see this one here, and we post the videos, and the Ja thing happened, and we were all in there, and we were just like, all right, we got to tell people this is
a Top Shot moment. That's when me and my friend looked at each other. We said that's a Top Shot moment. That's
we got to let the people know this is coming. Now, the big question was it going to be the Expert Challenge Award? And when we first said this is going to be a challenge reward, we didn't say it was going to be the Expert Challenge Award. We just said a challenge reward, because we were going back and forth between that and what we've now announced as the Expert Challenge Award for the win, the Dame Lillard, Dame time first true buzzer beater with the Bucks.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
It was going to be Ja Morant until Ja Morant was knocked out for the season, and then we were like, let's get Ja out there right now while people are still thinking about him, and Dame will get it for this one. But
that's
yeah,
it was a good move. I like that.
If he didn't get injured, it very well would have been the ECR.
So before Sam's going to lead off with an NBA question, crunch time, you're not going to go spill anything about it, but could we at least get a facial gesture for, is it for the win or not, in common moments? All right. Going to go and move on to the next question, Sam. We're not going to put him on the spot like that. Sam, go free. We're not going to put him on the
great
no, it's just like, it's a funny question.
Once you guys see all the plays from that set, I think you can go right now. If you go to sets, you can actually go and watch all the crunch time plays. I highly recommend you guys do that. I think you'll like it a lot.
I think we will definitely do that tomorrow, guys. B2B AM. We will be on in the morning. We should go look at these moments, and we have a lot of NBA basketball to talk tonight. We obviously haven't covered enough around the NBA, but this was really good for us to get started here with Vinyls, who we are so excited that you spent so much time with us to kick it, hang out, to watch the Bulls get slaughtered as we expected. But still, as co-host of the Polls, we are so happy to have you on. Sam, lead them off with a good NBA question to go lead him off of here.
Final question. We didn't get a chance to talk hoops. I know we were going to talk about Fast Break tonight. We'd love to have you on again, just as like a night just for fun, talk hoops, stuff like that.
Please. Let's do we will actually go through the John slate. Hansen NBA style red zone during a Fast Break.
Oh, you have no idea how it'll come. It'll go fast. It'll be Cam Whitmore. I'm a big Cam Whitmore fan. I hope that you have some Cam Whitmore. The second half of the season, I'm going to laugh so hard when you're creating this stuff. It's going to be amazing what players will make it into this. It won't be as painful, though, as the Aaron Wiggins is of years past. You won't need to have that in order to win this game, which makes this all the more better. Sam, what do we got?
With that said, I just kind of want to leave it off with, you said you're a big 76ers fan. What is your thoughts on their season so far? How do you think they're going to, where do you think they stand in the Eastern Conference? And any quick thoughts on Embiid likely being losing out on the MVP given the new 65-game rule, because he was certainly the leader for that award by All-Star break.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously it's a bummer that Embiid got hurt. I'll say this, I've been really hard on Embiid. We haven't gotten out of the second round with him. It doesn't matter what the coach is. It doesn't matter who the all-star around him is. We just seem to not be able to get past that threshold. But what Nick Nurse has been getting out of Embiid is something I hadn't seen before. Like he got 70 points, over 70 points in a game. Like
Historic.
Like holy shit. Like where did that so Embiid
and still will not be eligible for an MVP.
Yeah, so like the Nick Nurse effect is Joel Embiid was one of the worst pick and roll players in the league, and now he was top 10 this season on pick and roll scoring. Like just that one adjustment, his passing is significantly better this season because Nick Nurse's offense makes so much more sense for Joel Embiid. Doc Rivers put him in his system. Doc Rivers sucks. I don't care.
Yeah, we can go on all day about that. Anybody here a fan of the JJ Redick podcast? That man spoke some damn truth a little while ago.
Brett Brown, great player coach, terrible game coach. So he finally has Nick Nurse, who is both a good player coach and a good in-game coach, great at making adjustments, great at getting players in the right places, and running a system that actually makes sense for the players playing in the system and not just trying to force square pegs into round holes. So, I think what we're seeing this season right now is Tyrese Maxey's coming out party. He's going to get a lot of time to be the guy. Embiid's going to come back, and they're going to be able to be a two-man team as good as any other two-man team in the league. We have Kyle Lowry, a great veteran leader. He may not
hate the fact that you guys have him.
He may not have the same game that he had, 5-6 years ago, but just to have a veteran leader who is from the city, who gets how demanding the city is, and to mentor these guys, absolutely huge. To have guys like Kelly Oubre and Buddy Hield and Cam Payne and Nick Batum that are just great role players that in any given night can have a good night. You have Tobias Harris, who is, Tobias Harris is really funny. If he was not a max contract, Sixers fans would love him. The fact that he's the max contract and doesn't play like a max player, that's where all the frustration comes.
You know what's hilarious are the amount of nights that you have purposely maybe put points battles, and on nights that you could save some points, Tobias Harris is one of the guys to save. All right, so mathematically you need 22 points, and even though you couldn't predict Embiid being out, that night is a good points night to go and play. Tobias Harris. So many of us are on the Tobias Harris train. So we'll literally all post our lineups early on in the day. And then we have the game on after. And it's who else needs 20 points for Tobias Harris? Here we go. We hit 20 points and we're all cheering in the stream. It's awesome.
I love that. Yeah. So, do I think we can win the championship? I mean, if Embiid comes back, in early April and we get some reps with the whole team together, maybe we have a shot. Embiid hasn't been healthy in the playoffs. Maybe a healthy Embiid in the playoff is
how much is Buddy Hield going to help you? That's my main question for the 76ers.
Buddy Hield, he looks great so far. He's shooting better than he was in Indy and certainly better than he was shooting in Sacramento. But I feel like he does this. He'll shoot really well and then he'll go into a slump. That's what 3-point shooters do.
The best 3-point shooter that he's had though since, and I remember this as a Heat fan. JJ Redick and Marco Bellinelli. Do not forget the Italian assassin.
I was at
off the bench. One left and one came back in. They were both horrible.
I was a Sixers season ticket holder for many years, and I was at that game against the Celtics in the playoffs where Bellinelli hit that shot, and the fucking team shot off all the confetti, and we had to sit there for 20 minutes while they cleaned the floor just so the Celtics could mop us up in overtime because they thought Bellinelli hit a 3 to win the game. He was great, though. I loved watching him.
I love Bellinelli.
Yeah, I have very vivid memories of that time period. But yeah, I mean, we've the last couple of years we really haven't had a dead-eye 3-point shooter. We had George Niang, love bang bang George Niang. We all called him minivan. I don't know how that got
he boxes people out. If you had on Fastbreak top people that can box people out, George Niang is number one. That guy gets up in there and he'll have many box outs. like per game.
I think box out is a stat that we actually are able to get. I don't know that I would ever do it, but we can do deflections. I mean, there's all sorts of wild.
You gotta put all the booties together. Put like Grant Williams. You got to put like also a night with him. Like you got some guys out there that just straight up know how to get in there.
So I was just at All-Star Weekend and I was talking to the
awesome.
I was talking to the Sport Radar team. I was talking to a few of the guys from the NBA about like next gen stats. Sport Radar has the next gen stats, so I'm going to try to convince them to let me use distance traveled and maybe do a night where you have to combine for 5 miles traveled on the court in a given night.
That would be hilarious to go and track for so many content purposes. Oh my god. Especially
every player has a
like the least amount of time traveled. That would be the best.
Every player has it's Kyle Anderson, but every
slow-mo
tracker in their uniform and their shoe that shows exactly where they are on the court, how fast they're going, and they have all these cameras set up around the court to track all these movements. And the things they were explaining to me, my head was exploding. So I'm really hopeful that we'll start being able to use those things sooner than later. But man, so many cool stats.
You know what the goal is already, Vinyls. We saw it during the All-Star Weekend. You saw it with your own eyes. LED courts.
Yeah.
You know what would look great, with those same dimensions? I think a moment would look pretty cool on the court.
Sick on the court.
Yeah, it would look pretty good. So I think the template is certainly there for all this stuff. We can't be more than, thankful to go and have you here on stream with us. Definitely next time we'll kick it to more hoops. It's just, for this time around, it's just we got to have some good conversations, see where we went. I learned a lot about Yu-Gi-Oh! That I never understood before about the difference of collectability behind that.
All you need to know is Blue Eyes, White Dragon. Forget about the rest. Or Dark Magician. Dark Magician, I think, is another.
I heard about White, what was it, Black Lotus with Magic the Gathering back in the day.
Yeah,
it's
Charizard and Pokemon. Yeah. All that good stuff.
It's a thing, but Sam, I'll let you go and close out, and then with Vinyls, and then I'll do the last thing, and then boom, we'll go and close out the stream. Thank you for everybody being on right now. Last thing I'm going to go and chill out right now is that we have a fast break game that happened tonight. So unless, I guess theoretically you could enter tomorrow and maybe win this whole thing, I guess. I don't know. But we have a fast break game in our Discord that you can go and enter. If you didn't make it this time around, certainly next time that fast break is up, March 1st, we're doing our own little community prize until they allow us to sort of have a little something to go and give away as well. So please go and join us. But in the interim, until fast break happens, we'll be here sort of running a little game. And you guys got to hear from Vinyls tonight. And so, Sam, kick it away as we go and close out tonight.
Thank you very much again, Vinyls, for joining us. It's an absolute pleasure having you here. Appreciate you taking the time to talk to us. I know we're a little over time as well. So, thank you again. If you want to throw in any plugs for people to follow you and stuff like that, like on Twitter, I know that everybody knows where to contact you. If you don't want them to contact you, let us know. I feel like we've talked a lot about community outreach lately.
Everybody is welcome to contact me, but I'm going to Uno reverse, and everybody follow these guys. They're awesome. Love what they're doing.
Yeah, go talk to me if you guys want to get some questions answered. We'll sort of.
Looking forward to jumping back on, and let's talk about that March 1st when Fast Break goes live. That would be fun to jump on and follow the games that night.
That'll be a lot of fun, yeah, and
cool.
We'll do some fun late swaps, some. For me, I always have fun with the community, basically saying hey guys, I'm going to go run this guy tonight. Let's see if this pops off or not. So I have fun with it all the time. And so could be some fun things in the second half of the season that we can create content off of. Guys, community, thank you guys all for being here. We appreciate each and every one of you being here. Vinyls and Sam the Man, you guys will see us very soon if you guys are here in Chicago running an in real life event with the 9 Lives Lounge. Again, if you guys are from Chicago, which maybe you tuned in tonight, because of that reason, and if you did, we have 20 tickets for 9 Lives Lounge Chicago members. 20 tickets going to see the Clippers. I do not know how, and I do not know why, but of all the tickets, we're talking the Cavaliers, we're talking the Knicks, we're talking everybody else. Somehow the Clippers were one of the cheapest. To which I say, wow, have we looked at the odds? Have we looked at what this team has done in 2024? What is going on with the price of these tickets? But we can have 20 of them for the community. So please let me know in the Top Shot team channel Chicago Bulls, and there's a little NL Cat sign that you have to go react to, and I will be taking people from there, and your +1s if we don't get enough people. So, without further ado, we'll see you guys soon, tomorrow most likely, and over the weekend, finals. Sam.
Thank you guys very much. Last thing, my parting shot, Trace Jackson Davis. Keep an eye on him. He's a stud.
Oh, love him on the Warriors.
Yes,
Absolutely love him. That dude puts up some stats.
Yeah.
And towards the end of the year, if the Warriors dunk, okay, we're bringing finals back on for these kinds of takes.
Yeah,
Yes,
TJD all day long. Guys, thank you
Real,
so much.
recognize real.
It was a pleasure. Looking forward to doing it again.
Let's do it again. All
Have a
right.
wonderful night.
Catch y'all later.